Hi, I'm Grant from Blackmagic Design, and I wanted to give you a quick update on what we've got for NAB this year. We've got quite a few new products today. We've got some new cameras and some new switches, plus some new SMPTE 2110 IP video products, and some really nice live streaming solutions as well. Plus, we'll be introducing DaVinci Resolve 20, which is a really big update this year. So we've got quite a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Now, first I wanted to talk about backing up media. Now, we're all generating a lot of media files, so we need a good backup solution and something that syncs to Blackmagic Cloud. So we've done that. It's called Blackmagic Cloud Backup 8. Now, it's similar to our Blackmagic Cloud dock, but it uses low-cost 3.5-inch hard disks. So let me bring it out and show you. Here it is here. You can see it's a rack mount design. Now, it's got 8 hard disk bays along the front, and each bay has a nice illuminated LED border, and you can just insert up to 8 hard disks in the slots. It's really easy to use. Let me check out. I'll show you the back. I'll turn it around so you can get a close-up of that there. So you can see it's got the 410G Ethernet connectors, so everyone on your network can access the backup media and back things up. Plus it syncs to Blackmagic Cloud, which means you can do your own local backup of Blackmagic Cloud storage, which is always a really nice thing. And now it has that status display HDMI output as well. And it has USB for the utility, but also the USB looks like Ethernet to the computer. So you can connect a computer with a simple USB cable and you can access the media just with a USB cable. Let's go back to the front. There. So I can plug in some power. And I've got a hard disk that I can plug in and show you. There's a disk here. Now we've actually developed a case for hard disks. So it looks a bit like an old videotape. You can store them on the shelf and it's sort of, a bit like an old Digibeta tape. So, and we'll manufacture those hard disk cases. So they'll be on our website and there'll be a price on our website. So if I insert the disk here, there you go there. So you can see the LED ring should light up. And now the LED ring is red when it's writing files and it's green when you read files. And some of these hard disks are actually so fast you can use them for editing. But the main thing is they're really cheap. That's over like 20 terabytes. And that's what really matters. Now, when you're finished, you can back up onto the disk and then you can remove it and put in a fresh disk. So you can have only an update of them at one time. So I think it's a really good way of backing up a lot of media really fast. So the Blackmagic Cloud Backup 8 will be priced at $1,495. Now the prices can change, obviously, depending on government duties and taxes. It's just started production, so it should be available in the next week or so. So the Blackmagic Cloud Store 1.7 will add support for the new Blackmagic Cloud Backup 8, and it should be posted on our website the next day or so. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about SDI routers. Now we've got a new type of video hub today. It's called Blackmagic Video Hub Mini 4x2 12G. It's rack mount, but it's very tiny, and it's been designed when you need a small router and you don't have a lot of space. So let me show you. I'll bring one out. Here it is here, so you can see. It's only a third rack width. It's a 1/3 rack width design. Now, it has a built-in control panel on the front, and it's got those it's like a nice direct cut bus style routing, but you can custom label the buttons, of course. Now, it's got 4 input buttons, and it's got 2 output buttons. So to use it, you just select one of the outputs, and then you select the input that you want to route to that output. So it's really simple and super fast to use. Let me show you the back. So see it there, if you can get a close-up of that. So it's got 4 12G SDI inputs, but it's also got 4 12G SDI loop outputs. So you can loop it out to other gear. And it's also got 2 12G SDI router outputs. Now, it supports all SD, HD, and Ultra HD video standards, and any combination of Ultra HD, SD, and HD. I didn't do that order very well, but you can do all those different formats on the same router at the same time. Now, it's got 1G Ethernet for remote switching, so you can actually use the VideoHub software with it. And it also supports the VideoHub protocol, so you can use like for broadcast automation and things like that. Now, it's got an AC power input, and it's also got a 12-volt DC power input for redundancy. And the 12-volt DC has the locking connector, so the plug won't pop out. Let's go back to the front panel. There it is there. So we've actually done something really exciting with this router. It's quite different. It's got an emergency input connector on the front. It's under the front. There's a rubber cover on the front. Let me take that off so I can show you. There it is there, if you can get a shot of that. So what you do is you get an extra 12G SDI input on the front. So when you plug video into that input, it actually overrides input 4 on the back. I think input 4 would probably be the lowest priority input. I reckon you'd probably have the highest priority items on input 1 and 2 and 3. So this is really great when you're in small, like small portable racks, but you don't have any space for patch panels, and even larger routers, you only have space for something tiny. So if you need to connect video urgently, just plug it in the front right there. You can also see there's a USB-C connector on the front there, and that's a HD webcam output. So you can connect a computer to get video. The computer actually thinks that USB is a webcam, but it's video. And that's output number 2's video. So if you switch a source into output 2, then it'll change that webcam output. So it's pretty cool. Now, it actually has a clean switch function in here as well. And the clean switch locks to input 1, but it's quite different to traditional routers. Traditional routers have the clean switches on the input. The clean switch it's on the output, not the input. So you could have like a streaming encoder off one of the outputs with the clean switch on that output, but then a recorder on another output that doesn't have the clean switch. So the recorder would get a direct feed from the input video without any resync processing. But the streaming processor would have the clean switch. So I think that's really quite cool, because then your live stream wouldn't have any glitches when you're routing, but you wouldn't be inserting frames on the recorder. Now you can set the output clean switch functionality in the utility software, and each output has like a checkbox where you can enable and disable the clean switch. Plus also the software is localized into multiple languages, plus the labels can be Unicode, so that's pretty nice as well. So as you can see, it's a very powerful little router, and you can even use it on the desk. It's so cute. So the Blackmagic VideoHub Mini 4x2 12G will be priced at $595. It's just started production, so it should be available by the end of April. I think it'll be really helpful in small portable racks and broadcast trucks. Now, we also have a larger model. It's called Blackmagic VideoHub Mini 6x2 12G. It's a little larger. It's half a rack width. And with that extra size, we can fit 2 more inputs. So I'll bring that one out. There it is there. So you can get a close-up of that. Now you can see the extra buttons on the input buttons on the front. Let's have a look at the back. You see there, you can get a close-up. So you can see it's got the extra inputs there. So it's got 6 12G SDI inputs, plus each input has the loop out. And also this model has a dedicated reference input, which is nice. So the clean switch can lock to the Blackburst or Tri-Sync preference. And if there's no reference, it'll still lock to input 1. But let's go back to the front panel, because there's another difference as well. Now, like the smaller model, it's got the front panel 12G SDI input, but there's actually an extra connector on it. So let me show you that, because we've got a bit more space. There you go there, if you can get a close-up of that. So you can see it's actually got two 12G SDI connectors. So we've added a 12G SDI output, and that's the same video output as output 2. So on this larger model, the SDI input overrides input 6 when it's connected. So these front panel patch connections can be really handy. They can get you out of trouble if you need to patch in some gear during a live job. So I think it's pretty cool. So otherwise, the features of this model are exactly the same as the smaller one. But I think this one's a really nice model. Now, the Blackmagic VideoHub Mini 6x2 12G we priced at $795. It's also just started production, so it'll be available soon. But we also have a third model, and this is the largest one. Now, it's got the exact same features as the 6x2 model, but it's a larger 8x4 size, which means it's got 8 inputs and 4 outputs. Now, it's called Blackmagic VideoHub Mini 8x4 12G. Let me show you that one. Actually, I'll just make a little bit of space here. Let's move that over. I'll bring it out. There you go there. Now it's 2/3 rack width, this one, and it has a larger control panel because it's got 8 inputs and 4 outputs now. Now it's got the same 12G SDI front panel connectors, which I can remove the rubber on this one and show you. There. Now the front panel input overrides input 8, and the output is the same as the output 4 on the back. Now it's also got the USB-C webcam as well. I'll show you the back. See there? Now it's got the same rear panel as the other Video Hub Micro models, mini model, sorry. But now it's got 8 12G SDI inputs with loop outputs on all those, plus the 4 12G SDI outputs. So let me bring it back around. So you can see there. So this model, I think, is a really good balance between the number of connections and still being pretty small, which is really what you want for these. The idea is they're small. Now, when you rack mounted into a universal rack shelf, you still actually have a bay free. So you can put a streaming encoder or a HyperDeck Studio Mini there. It's pretty nice. Now, the Blackmagic Video Hub Mini 8x4 12G will be priced at $995. Now, like the other two models, it's just started production. I think these routers are really nice, and I think they should solve a lot of problems in, particularly in portable racks. So now I want to talk about standards conversion. So we have a new up-down cross converter today. Now we have a HD model, but we really wanted an Ultra HD version of it. But we went a little bit further than that because we also wanted to make it rack mount. Plus, we actually also wanted to add SMPTE 2110 IP video support as well. We wanted some really high quality conversions between all SD, HD, and Ultra HD video formats, or standards, I should say, which means this model actually has better image processing than simple converters because it's got a larger processor that's just dedicated to standards conversion. So the image quality is really great. Now, it's called Blackmagic 2110 IP Up-Down Cross 12G. Let me bring it out. It's a bit of a mouthful. Here it is here. Actually, let me, I'll just make myself some space here. So there it is there. So you can see it's 1/3 rack width. It's got a new cooling design, so it's really quiet, but it's still quite small, so you can kind of use it as a converter. You can put it on the desk or you can rack mount it. Now it has the LCD on the front with video display and audio meters, and has buttons and a knob for the menus, which is where you set the standard. So it's very easy to use. You really just set the desired video standard on the menu on the front. Then any video coming in will be converted to that standard. And for monitoring, it's also got a built-in speaker on the front. So you can push the button to hear the sound. If you double press it, it'll lock the speaker on. And if you adjust the knob while holding the button, it'll actually adjust the speaker volume. There's also a headphone socket. And in fact, if you plug the headphones in, the knob will then adjust the headphone volume. Now it's got a USB-C on the front, which is also a HD webcam. So you can connect it to a computer and the computer thinks it's a webcam video source, but it's actually SDI video. But let me show you the back. There it is there. So you can see it's got a 12G SDI input and it's got a 12G SDI loop out. And it's also got the two 12G SDI standards converted outputs. So the two outputs there are the main standards converter outputs. It's also got a HDMI input that does 4K. And it'll auto switch between SDI or HDMI in, whatever's plugged in first. It'll switch also if one input's unplugged. But you can actually set that in the menu. There's a bunch of menu settings for that. So you can set whether you want 2110, 12G SDI or the HDMI input on the menus. There's a HDMI output that does 4K as well. And also the 10G SDI there, the 10G Ethernet for the SMPTE 2110 Ethernet video. And you can also route the 2110 sources in the menus as well, which is cool because it's kind of like, you could put this on a single Ethernet cable and just feed video through it when you want to convert things. So it's pretty nice. Now it's got a single BNC reference input that locks to internal sync. And there's also a BNC reference output for the internal sync generator. Now it's got a built-in sync generator and the output will still work even if there's no reference input connected because the sync generator will just output. But the sync generator can also lock to a 2110 PTP clock as well. Now we've also got an AC power input on the back and also there's this 12-volt DC backup power with a locking style connector. So that's really nice too. Means you can add a second power supply when you need redundancy, which is, if it's in a critical path, that's really important. So I think it's really nice. I'll swing it back around again. There it is there. So it's got a lot of processing power. I won't demo it because we don't have enough time and there's a bunch of things to show, but it's really easy to use. You just pretty much turn it on and then set the desired video standard on the LCD and that's it. It's a really powerful standards converter. So the Blackmagic 2110 IP Up-Down Cross 12G will be priced at $545 and it'll take care of all your HD, SD, Ultra HD conversions. It's got a D interlacer built in, so it can even handle 1080i and NTSC and PAL video standards. It's got quite high quality processing. And it'll also actually convert between 12G SDI, HDMI, and SMPTE 2110 IP video connections. So that's pretty cool. Converters like this are so useful to include with all your live production gear. You know, it protects you from strange sources, you know, video sources you have to deal with, like weird cameras in venues that operate in strange video standards. And it'll convert whatever comes in to whatever standard you want to work in. Now it'll be available in May or June once it's finished testing. So that'll be cool. Now we actually have another converter as well. It's a bit simpler this time. And the next problem we need to solve is we need to use these OLED TVs for high-end color grading. Everybody wants to use them because they're so good. And so we need a converter for that. And also we can use those TVs for on-set monitoring. They have such good color imagery now. They make really good grading monitors. So we needed a converter with more powerful features. And so actually our Teranex Mini SDI to HDMI converters, which we have, kind of do the job, but they're not actually good enough. We need better audio outputs for monitoring, and we need some audio delay so we can compensate for the processing delay in these TVs and projectors. And then the output, that audio output can be sent to powered speakers. So the new converter is called Blackmagic 2110 IP SDI to HDMI 12G. It's a bit of a mouthful, but as the name says, it's got SMPTE 2110 IP video on it as well. So yeah, we're just sort of adding 2110 into all these things, but it's also got a 12G SDI input. So let me show you that. Bring it out. There it is there, if you can get a shot of that. Now you can see it's a 1/3 rack width. It's actually got the same kind of front panel as the up-down cross converter. So it's got the LCD display with the menus, the speaker, the headphone connection, it's got all that. And there's also a menu for setting up the audio meter ballistics, because you can change those between VU and PPM. It also supports the HDMI instant lock. So when you're switching video to a different reference timing, it'll continue to provide HDMI out and resynchronize it so that you don't get those big long dropouts on TVs. You know, like these TVs, when you switch the video input, they'll drop out to black and take a while before they come back again, because televisions were never really designed for broadcast monitoring. That fixes it. HDMI instant lock will keep the output going out to the TV and then take care of it so you get it coming back straight away as soon as you switch to a new source, even if the timing shifted. It's got to be the same video standard, of course. Now, the front panel also has the USB-C HD webcam output, and it also includes a 3D lookup table, so you can accurately calibrate a monitor, which is really critical, obviously, for color grading. Let's check out the connections on the back. So you can see there. So it's got the AC power input and a 12-volt DC backup power with a lock-in connector. It's got the 10G Ethernet for 2110 Ethernet IP video. It's got the 12G SDI input, and you can select the input in the menu, which input you want to use. And you can also route the 2110 IP sources in the LCD menu as well. Unlike the up-down cross converter, the front panel is basically a router panel. That's the great thing about the LCD. Now, it's got a 12G SDI loop output, so you can loop out to other gear. And you can actually, this is unique, you can loop out from 2110 IP sources or 12G SDI input sources. So depending on what input you're running is what will come on the loop out. So it's not just an SDI loop, it's a loop of whatever the active video source is, depending on which one's selected. There's the main HDMI output, which is 4K, and plus it's got the two XLR analog audio outputs, and these are the ones that are adjustable and level. They de-embed from channels 1 and 2, but you can select the audio channels in the menus that you want to de-embed, and you can also adjust the XLR audio levels so you can drive powered speakers. Now, you can use the knob on the front to adjust the audio level, and you can also select and mute the XLR outputs when you use the speaker. So there's actually some settings in there, and you can also mute the XLR outputs when you connect headphones. So it's got a bunch of really nice options. And there's also an audio delay for adjusting the audio to get perfect AV sync with projectors and televisions. But also, you might have noticed this remote connector on the back. Now, what that's for is it's for remote control of the audio output levels using a potentiometer. So you can create like a remote volume knob in your desk and then plug it into that socket. And it's really nice if the converter's not close to you, if it's off somewhere and you want a nice volume control there. So it's really cool. Now, again, I won't show it working because we don't really have the time, but it's a very powerful little converter. So the Blackmagic 2110 IP SDI to HDMI 12G, we priced at $495, and I think it's the perfect monitoring solution for HDMI displays. It's a nice replacement for the Teranex Mini SDI to HDMI model, and it makes these new OLED TVs into fantastic grading monitors. Now, it should be available in sort of May or June, and it's a really nice monitoring solution. But what happens if you need surround sound monitoring? And that's very common in grading suites now, so we actually have a bigger one to handle that. It's got 10 channels of XLR audio monitoring out. Otherwise, it's exactly the same as the 2-channel model. Every other feature is exactly the same. So let me show you, I'll bring that one out. Here we are here. I'll move this out of the way. There it is there. So you can see that. So you can see it's a full rack width. That's to fit the extra audio connectors. But the front panel has basically the same features. It's just wider. Let me check out the back. I'll show you the back. There it is there. So you can see you've got the 10 audio connectors along the back. So you can map those XLR outputs to the different embedded audio sources. And we've labeled them with surround sound channels, but they can really be anything. And when you adjust the level control with the knob on the front or the remote knob, they're all adjusted up and down at the same time. So you get like a full surround sound setup, and then the knob will adjust all the speakers at once. So it's pretty cool. Let me bring it around. Oops. Try not to destroy it. There it is there. Now this model is called Blackmagic 2110 IP SDI to HDMI 12G-10. So the names are getting a little bit complicated, but there's so many features. Now it'll be priced at $795. It'll also be available in June. So I think this is going to be a fantastic monitoring solution. It makes it so easy to get color accurate monitoring for your editing and color grading. Or video walls and LED screens and projectors. You know, there's so many different display devices now. And you can adjust the AV delay for perfect AV sync, even when there's processing delay on the display. And of course, it's got the 3D lookup table for accurate color calibration. So, you know, it's great. Okay, so next I wanted to talk about capture cards. Now, last year we launched a couple of Decklink cards that had SMPTE 2110 IP video connections on them. They had 10G Ethernet for really low-cost connectivity, which means they can do a single channel of Ultra HD IP video, and they'd actually also do multiple channels of HD. But we wanted to do something a little bit more extreme, I guess, a little bit more high-end. So we've designed a new capture card. It's called Decklink IP100G. Let me show you. I'll bring it out. Actually, I'll just create some space here to let me bring things out. Otherwise, I'll run out of bench, and the curve of the earth will be a problem because it'll get too long. So let me bring this out. Here it is here. Now it plugs into a PCI Express slot. It's a PCI Gen 4 card with 8 lanes. Let me just put it there, which is extremely high performance. It's got built-in cooling. It works in HD and Ultra HD video standards, and it supports multiple video channels at the same time. So let me show you the side there. You can see there, it's got, you can see, I'll just put it there. You can see it's got 200G Ethernet connections on the back. Now that gives you up to 8 Ultra HD video connections all at the same time. Plus you can capture and play back 8 channels all at the same time. And we actually think it can do more channels in HD. We haven't done that yet because we think the card should be able to handle 32 channels of HD. We designed it to do that, but we actually don't know if that'll work in practice. At the moment, we've been focused on 8 channels of capture and playback. So we need to do a few more tests to see how many more channels computers can handle. It's really up to the computers you're plugging it into. So that'll be really cool. But it is 8 channels of Ultra HD and HD initially. Now you can see we've got 200G Ethernet connections on the back, and that's for redundancy. So you could run 2 separate 100G Ethernet switches and have redundancy, which is really important at the high end. So you get 2 redundant SMPTE 2110 IP video connections, and a lot of high-end systems support that. Now it also supports the GPU Direct RDMA, and it also allows it allows the direct memory transfer between the Decklink card and GPUs, and that reduces the PCI bandwidth when you're doing video processing on GPUs. So you get a lot of huge reductions in the latency. So it's really nice. I think it'll be a really exciting card. I'll just put it down there. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what software can do with this card. Just uses the standard Decklink driver. With all this new AI processing, it's going to be it's kind of an exciting world right now. There's a whole new generation of CPUs and GPUs and everything going on. And so I think it's going to be exciting. I think this card will make it really easy to process a lot of video channels at the same time. And I can't wait to see what developers do with it in particular. Now, the Decklink IP 100G will be priced at $1,795. So it should be available in June after we've done some private beta testing with developers. I think it's going to be really exciting for developers and broadcasters. Okay, so next I want to talk about the ATEM Constellation. So we've got a lot of people doing really big jobs with those. And so we needed actually a bigger switcher. And so we've got, now the ATEM 4ME Constellation 4K is already a very big switcher. It's got 40 12G SDI inputs, and it's got 24 12G SDI outputs. But for some people, that's still not enough. So we've got an even bigger model, and it's called the ATEM 4ME Constellation 4K Plus. Probably it will help if I bring it out and show you, because it'll explain a lot. I'll move the Decklink IP over there. So here it is here. It's a big monster. So there you go there. So you can see it's got the same front panel features as the ATEM 4ME Constellation. It's got the same features as the ATEM 4ME Constellation 4K, but it's got twice the number of inputs and outputs. It's got a few other extra features, but the main thing is this Constellation has twice as many inputs and twice as many outputs. Let me show you the back so you can see. It's a bit of a monster. There it is there. Look at that. So It's 4 rack units high. So now you can see the difference. It's quite easy to see. So it's got the 80 12G SDI inputs, and there's a full standards converter on every single one of those inputs. That's 80 standards converters built in. So every input can be a completely different video standard. It's also got 48 independent switcher outputs, 12G SDI switcher outputs. Now, all the outputs have RP188 timecode embedded on them. They've all got the camera control, the tally, the talkback is embedded to all 48 outputs. It's a lot of outputs. And this is really good if you want to connect off to a bunch of ISO recorders. So you can have a dedicated output to each ISO recorder, and then you can route the source into those individual outputs. And those sources that you can route into each output, which is all completely customizable. So each output can be set between program video, the preview, any specific input, internal sources, clean feeds, which are before the downstream cares. And also now you can get 4 multi-viewers. The 4 multi-views built in can also be routed out the main video outputs before, as well. Like before, the multi-views were actually on dedicated outputs, which they still are, but you can also route them now through to any video output, which is really cool. And each of these outputs, like I was saying, was completely independent. Now, because we've got more inputs, it means we've actually also added, we need more MADI outputs. So we've doubled the number of MADI outputs to 4. And 4 MADI outputs lets us send all the switcher audio off to external mixers, which is why we need more when we've got more inputs, because we've got more audio coming in. The switcher gets all the sources, so that's kind of important. It gets all the audio because it's getting all the sources. Now, the video inputs are then mapped essentially to 256 individual MADI output channels across all those, and you can pass it all off to someone for mixing. We've also added we've got 2 MADI inputs now for an additional 128 channels of extra audio input, and all those inputs go into the audio mixer, so they're like additional audio inputs into the audio mixer, and each one of those channels has all the audio processing. So each one of those MADI channels has 6-band parametric EQ, a compressor, a limiter, an expander, and more. Now, we've also, one other thing you'll notice on the back there, if you can get a shot down the side, we've added additional Ethernet connections. So we've got 2 Ethernet connections now for redundancy. Now, Ethernet's where you connect the control panels and the ATEM software. But now we have, apart from that, we have all the other ATEM 4MA Constellation connections on there. So we've got the 4 12G SDI dedicated Ultra HD multi-view outputs. Each multi-view can have up to 16 views. And of course, you can have custom colors, labels, borders, meters. There's also an RJ45 style talkback connector, and it has the RS422 serial control input, which is also good for switcher automation or PTZ control. It's got a BNC reference input, and also the USB port supports like a HD webcam out, so it does that on the back as well, so you could connect that to a computer and stream directly from here. It's got 2 AC power inputs for redundancy, and it's got 2 internal redundant power supplies. So each power input goes to 2 completely separate power supplies. So I'll show you, we'll go back to the front. So it's got, so as far as features go, it's got the 4 internal media players. It's got the 4 ATEM advanced upstream chroma keys per row. So it's got 4 rows, which is 16 ATEM advanced chroma keys in total. It's got 4 DVEs, plus it's got 2 super source processors, which each have 4 DVEs each. So what you got is you've got 12 built-in DVEs in here. Now it works in 720p, 1080i, 1080p, and 2160p Ultra HD television standards. So it's a bit of a monster. It can do everything. Now, I don't have a lot of time to demo it here, but I do have one on the rack down the end here. And I wanted to show you quickly the inputs. So if I quickly show you the ATEM software control on the computer down here, you can see all the inputs. So let's go down here. So you can see I've got the preferences here. I can go along here to sources, and I can see all my inputs, and I can tab across, and you can see how many inputs I have, which is a lot. And then I can go to the outputs, and you can see I've got all the outputs. And this is where you can do custom names. Obviously, that's what you normally do. But it gives you a good idea of how many outputs I've got. Plus, I've got all the internal sources and things as well. But there you go. I've got 48 outputs and the 80 inputs. So it's pretty cool. So the ATEM 4MA Constellation 4K Plus will be priced at $12,995. So I think it'll be popular for really large jobs, like concerts where you've got a lot of ISO recorders. You know, I remember when our switches had 10 inputs, and they're a lot bigger now, so it's pretty cool. So this is in testing now, and it should be ready in June, so that'll be cool. So next, we've been working on another software update for ATEM switches. Now this one is essentially adding some advanced features to the ATEM 4ME models and the 2ME models. Now we'll be adding support for shadow buses. This is where 2MEs can be linked together, so one follows the other. And so you can get basically separate feeds. So one bus, well, the main bus is the primary one. It's the one you do the switching on, and then a follower bus, which is a separate ME, will follow along it's controlled by the primary, but it's a separate bus. So you get two MEs doing the same thing. But where it gets really cool is you can do source substitution. So this is where some of the sources on the follower are actually overridden by alternatives. So it follows most of the time, but not always, because you can override very specific sources on that follower bus and map them into a new source. So there's a new mapping window to settle this up. One other thing we've also done is we've added forced tally as well. Currently, tally only works on ME1, but you can now enable it on the other MEs as well. So if you're using a source on those MEs, the camera operators will see it. So these new features will be added to the ATEM 4ME constellation switches and the ATEM 2ME constellation models as well. So let me show you how the shadow bus feature works. So we can go across here to the utility, and I bring up the preference window again. It's down here, and you can see there it is there. So I can do, you can see how really powerful this can be. I can basically just go across and add one, and there it is there. That's the shadow bus, and it'll follow. So you can see from this window we can have up to 3 followers at the same time. So I could have, ME2, ME3, and ME4 all following, and they would all follow. But there's something even more exciting, which you saw a hint of it. Any output can also be a shadow bus. And this switch has 48 outputs with the the Constellation 4ME Plus here. So any one of those can be a shadow bus. Now it's a simple cuts only bus, but it works. So I'll show you. So I could take this one here, instead of it being ME4, it could be any of these. Oh, there's so many. Look at that. So we could make output 10 a shadow bus. Now this output only does cuts because it's a simple output, but it'll follow the primary and do cuts only. And then what you can do is select any of the sources down here to be substitutes. So I could come along here, for example, and say, okay, I want that one to be a different source, and it could be this one. So there it is there. So you can map as many combinations as you like. Now, when the primary bus goes to camera 6, this bus will go to camera 56. So you can do it whatever you like. Now you could use that for streaming in multiple languages. One ME could be in one language, like the character generator could be coming in one input in one language, and another ME could have a different character generator, a different language coming in. So they will follow each other perfectly. But when you switch to the titles, each ME would have the different character generator source. And you could you can do multiple languages that way with different title generators, or you could use them for like streaming concerts. One ME could be doing like the lead screen in the venue, which is always close-ups. The other ME could be doing the streaming output to the public, because you want the lead screen in the venue to be close-ups. Whenever you switch a wide shot on the stream, you could replace it with a close-up version of one of the cameras for the lead screen. It essentially allows one person to do 2 different shows at the same time. It's kind of cool. They can be doing the lead screen internal venue work as well as a live stream. Now the tally override feature is also really helpful. Now let me show you that. It's up in here. There it is there, and you can see the settings. So then I talked about the downstream key override before. Let me show you that setting. There it is there on the bottom. So that's where you'd set the override when the downstream key is completely covered over. All the upstream tallies can be turned off. So it's really cool. So I think this will be a nice update for high-end productions, because it's a high-end feature. Advanced live production really needs these features. It's going to be ATEM 10.0, and this update will be free to download when it's released, and it'll work on the ATEM 4ME constellation and the switches and the 2ME constellation switches, both the HD and the 4K models, and the 4K Plus, obviously, which we're showing it on. Okay, so coming back down here, next up I wanted to talk about Hyperdeck recorders. We have a new Hyperdeck shuttle model today. It's called Hyperdeck Shuttle 4K Pro. Let me show you. Actually, I probably need to make some space here. Let me move some things around. I'll get this out of the way. I'll pile up some of the gear. There it is there. Now, we already have a model called Hyperdeck Shuttle HD, and that's a desktop design with a really nice search style for jog, shuttle, and scroll. but this is a way more powerful model. It has the large built-in 7-inch screen. Over there, if you can get a close up of that. Now the LCD supports HDR color space. It's Ultra HD, includes the speaker in the front, and there's also a speaker button. It has the nice large search dial and the transport control buttons here. Now it records and plays ProRes DNX and H.264, but this one now adds H.265 as well. And it has the teleprompter feature where it plays an RTF file as a character generator, like a prompter. So you can do teleprompter, which is really nice actually. It also has the H.264 proxy recording feature. So it'll record a proxy while you're recording Ultra HD files. And now it'll record to an internal SD card or a UHS 2 card or a USB disk, but it can also record to network storage because it's got 10G Ethernet on it. But also underneath, actually I can show you there, it also has support for an internal M.2 storage card. So you can put that in the bottom and then you can have internal storage. So it's like having network storage built in. It also has a lot more connections. All these features means it can be used for so many different tasks. It's a lot more. It's probably our most powerful HyperDeck. You can use it as a media player for playing clips into live production switches. It can be used as a master recorder or a field recorder. It's very powerful. So let's check out the connections on the back. So I'll show the back there so we can get a shot of that. So you can see it's got quite a lot of connections. So I'll start on from one side. It's got a 6.5mm headphone socket, so you can plug in a headphone set of headphones. There's also the speaker on the top panel, of course, for audio monitoring. It's got the 12G SDI input, plus there's a 12G SDI loop out. Now it's 12G SDI, which means it works in SD, HD, and Ultra HD video standards, like all of them. Even SD, because people are capturing from archive still, so we still need to support SD on HyperDecks. It's got the two 12G SDI outputs with fill and key, so you can do a full fill and key. So I can play clips with an alpha channel. The alpha channel gets converted into a key signal coming out in real time. So you can play clips into a keyer in a switcher. And it gives you playback with transparency if you've got alpha channel in the clips, which is really good for stingers. And we've also got HDMI support, which is great for our AT mini switches. So it's got HDMI out, which is 4K actually, and it's got HDMI in, which is 4K as well. It's also got separate built-in monitoring. So it's got 3G SDI monitoring output there, and it's got a HDMI monitor out. It's also got 422 DEC control in, which is great for broadcast automation. There's also a USB-C connection for external disks. There's a BNC input for reference for connecting the broadcast systems. And there's also a reference output, which a lot of our HyperDeck studios have. And that's an output from the internal sync generator. So it outputs a reference even if there's no reference input connected. It's got 10G Ethernet. Fast Ethernet is really important on this model because it's got network storage built in, but it can also record to external network storage. So in many ways, this is probably like a network-based HyperDeck in a lot of ways. But it does have the one SD card slot there, which works with the fast UHS 2 cards. And that gives you compatibility with the HyperDeck Shuttle HD model and also the HyperDeck Studio models because they have SD cards. Now it's got a 12-volt power connection. It's got a lot of connections. Let's go back to the front. So let me show you how it works. It's quite simple. And actually, to save time, I've got one that I've already wired up and connected so I don't have to spend a whole lot of time plugging things in. So let me move this aside. I'll bring out the one that's got connections on it. Here we are here. So you can see that there. So the other thing I'll do is we'll add a monitor. So we've got a monitor here. I'll move it off to the side a little bit so I can control the HyperDeck. So now it's powered. You can see the LCD. It runs Blackmagic OS, so it powers on really fast. And I've also got the video output connected to the switcher in the rack over there. That's what the fill and key outputs are there. Now, if you look at the front, you can see the really large LCD, 7-inch LCD. The user interface is actually quite similar to HyperDeck Extreme, and also it has 3D LUTs, so you can load those. It's a HDR quality screen, and it shows playback and record of the video. There's also overlays on top of the screen, so it shows things like the codec, video standard timecode, record media status, all those things. And you can swipe on and off the overlays. So you just swipe down so you can get that shot there. And you can swipe them back on to bring them back so you can get a clean feed. You can also enter clip metadata, and that's done using a digital slate. And you swipe sideways to show that. So if I swipe sideways, you can see it brings up the digital slate, and you can enter clip metadata here. It's really good if you're recording from cameras to use that. Now the LCD also has built-in scopes, so I'll close that. You can access them from the scopes icon here, which is just here. And you can see the scopes menu on the bottom of the screen. So I can select any scope I want. So I can go through There's a waveform monitor. And there's a parade display. I got a vector and a histogram. I can also add a small picture-in-picture, which I can do here. So I can still see the video feed. Anyway, let's go back to video. So we'll just push the video and then we'll close the menu. So now let's play with the controls. So you have some really nice transport control buttons here, plus the search dial. So let's jog around. So if I go to jog, there's jog and I can jog up and down. It's nice. Now you can also scroll on the LCD. So there's a timeline where you can see all your clips and you can scroll with your finger. So I can do that there. Scrolling up and down all the clips. So it's pretty nice. It makes it really easy to find the clip you want. And you can even jog on the LCD. If you go up higher, you can accurately jog, which is really nice when you've got a lot of clips, and then the scroll will be much more severe because you've got just more content. So the jog is actually a really nice way of finding a playback point. But also you can use the transport controls obviously to play. So let's play. So you can see we've got some stuff playing there. Now you can see it on the monitoring output, and you can see there's a graphic overlays of all the status and things like that. But let me show you how to use it as a media player. Now to play a specific clip, you can use the clip button. So first you find the clip. So let's do that. So we'll jog and we'll go to one of these stingers here. So that looks pretty good. And then what you do is you press the clip button, which is the one here, and now it'll just play the one clip. But first I need to go to the start of the clip. So I use the previous clip button to do that. And now I'm at the start of the clip and I'm ready. But this clip has an alpha channel. So let's use the ATEM downstream key over here to layer it over the live video. And I can do that on the Mac over here on the control panel. So I've got the downstream key already set up here. So I can just have to go on here. And now it'll be overlaid. So if we can cut to the multi-view on the switcher, now the downstream key 1's on. Now when we play the clip, it'll layer over the live video in the downstream keyer. And the alpha channel in the clip will be output as a key signal, and then the ATEM key will use that key channel to blend the clips. Let's do that. And you'll see it happen. There it is. Cool. Now the animation's playing. It'll also stop at the end of the clip. And I can play it again. You can play it as many times as you like. It does the same clip again and again while the clip button's on. But even with the clip on, you can still scroll to other clips. So I can still like jog to a different one there, and I can then you can play the new clip just by jogging to it. So I can go to the previous clip again, and I can play that one. Now I've got a different animation. It's a bit slower, that one. So that's really cool. Now, when we played the clips, it was using the internal storage. There's a 2 terabyte memory card installed in this Hyperdeck shuttle. So it's a Hyperdeck, but it's also network storage. And this is really great for portable use because all the media is internal. And other users can access it over the network. So let me show you that. So I'll do a recording first. Go to the input, and then we'll do a record. Actually, I'll turn off the keyer first, because we don't want to do that. And now we'll do a short recording. So you can see now it's all lit up and recording. You can see the time remaining. You can see it on the monitoring output. It's really cool. In fact, one thing you can do is you can actually even still use the scopes when you're recording. There's your picture-in-picture, which is pretty nice. Anyway, let's close that. And we'll stop recording. There it is there. And now we can mount the Hyperdeck storage over on the computer over here. Now it's 10G Ethernet, so it's really fast. Let me go over here and do that. So I can go here, open it up. There it is there. And there's my stingers, but there's the clip I recorded. There it is there. You know, it's 10G Ethernet, so the network speed's really fast. So it's great. Now everyone on the network can access these recordings. And of course, you can also record to external network storage disks as well if you've got one available. So it is network storage, but it can also record to network storage. Now it syncs to Blackmagic Cloud, so I can log into Blackmagic Cloud and sync the media directly off the unit up into Blackmagic Cloud, which is great if an editor is working from another location, because then Blackmagic Cloud will distribute the media to all the other editors. So it's pretty cool. So this is an extremely powerful Hyperdeck model. It's really ergonomic as a media player for live production. All the controls at your fingertips. The LCD makes it really powerful. I think it's actually the most powerful Hyperdeck we have. Now the Hyperdeck Shuttle 4K Pro we priced at $1,495. And we also have a model that comes with a 2 terabyte storage built in. It's easy to add the storage, but we thought it'd be just nice to have a model that's got it pre-installed. And that model is called HyperDeck Shuttle 4K Pro 2TB, which stands for 2 terabytes. And this model will be priced at $1,895. It's about to start production, so it'll be available soon. And I think it'll be really great for live production. It's an incredibly powerful media player, and it integrates so well with the ATEM switches. You know, imagine setting one up next to your switcher with its own dedicated monitoring. You know, finding clips and playing them is really easy, so it's going to be really nice. Okay, next I wanted to talk about control panels. Last year we released a low-cost ATEM control panel, and it was called ATEM Micro Panel, and it connects to the ATEM software control. So you get a really low-cost hardware control panel, and it's got the same nice buttons that are larger, really big advanced panels, but it connects using Bluetooth or USB to the software, and it even has a battery in it. And that's been working really well, and people love it because you get physical hardware controls. But now we're going to do the same thing with camera controls. So let me show you. I'll come over here. Actually, I've got to do a camera demo, so I'll just set the switcher to a local camera. And I'll just come down here, and I'll bring it out because I've got to control a camera, so I should switch the switcher to a camera. Okay, so you can see it's the same controller as the large panel we have. It's a really beautiful design. Let me turn it on, actually. There it is there. It's got a battery in it. Now, it uses the same mechanical parts, but it's obviously just a single channel, but it's got the same quality. And I love these white LEDs, and it feels very smooth. You know, it's really nice. So if we can cut to the camera, this knob here adjusts the iris. So you can see I can adjust. I've just got a Micro Studio camera up above the set over there with just a photography lens on it. And then turning the knob adjusts the pedestal. And then pushing the knob actually can adjust, it can set an aux output to let you follow which camera you're controlling. So it lets you color grade multiple cameras really fast. There's controls for RGB balance. So it's really nice. Let me show you a color change. So you can see it there. And then the blacks. I can probably do a bit more radical color change, really. There you go there. So there's color correctors in the cameras. So it's really beautiful. Let's make that camera look nice. Put a little bit of contrast in it. Looks cool. So you can set gain and shutter angle and ND filters and everything in here. It's really cool. Now the buttons on the side switch between the cameras, but they do so much more than that. They also show the camera that's currently on air, plus the camera that's on preview. Now the LED display just here shows you the active camera. That's the one you're actually controlling. And the buttons do that. But the buttons light up red when they're on air, and they also light up green when they're on the preview row. So let me show you that. So you can see if I switch, I'm on camera 1, so that's why it's illuminated. So as I switch down between the cameras, you can see there, you can see which camera we're controlling. So we can get a close up of that. In fact, when you go to the camera that's on air, the number comes up red. So it's very cool. Now, if I cut on the switcher, you can actually see that move around. So I'll just pop down and I'll cut it down. And if you can get a close up of this, I'll show you. So if I go down here and then switch between the cameras, you can see that changing. So sorry, I'm running up and down. So that's very helpful because it stops you from adjusting the camera that's on air because the buttons will show you what's on air before you try and adjust the camera. So I think the combination of the LEDs and the buttons are really good. Now, these buttons are really high quality. Again, they're the same buttons off the advanced panels we use. And you can even take the keycaps off and custom label them as well. Now, let me just show you the back because it does have a few connections. Now, it's got the USB-C connection to connect computers. That also charges it. It's Bluetooth, so it'll run wirelessly. You can see I've got, wires there. And it just connects to the ATEM software control. So it's just like the other ATEM micro panel. It's got an internal battery, which it's using now. And it, like I was saying, it charges through the USB. And there's a power switch on the back. That actually disconnects the battery. Make sure you don't run the battery down when you're not using it because you might have it sitting there for a couple of weeks. You don't want the battery running down. Although you do need to turn, obviously, the battery back on again to charge it because it literally does disconnect the battery. So it's a very simple control panel to use and a really, really elegant design. It's got really nice controls and they're very smooth. It's basically just like the high-end CCU controllers. So it's got very familiar controls for like a broadcast user. They'll find it very familiar to use. I think it's a really nice controller. And it's perfect for ATEM Mini, which is just awesome, for that. It gives ATEM Mini customers something this beautiful to use. And it's portable, it's incredibly portable, so you can put one in. And you could even stack multiple side by side if you wanted to create a multi-channel controller, Plus, it's got a lip around the outside edge, so you could actually cut a hole in the desk and insert it in a desk. So it's really cool. So the new ATEM micro camera panel will be priced at $595. It's just about to start production, so it should be available in a few weeks. I think people really enjoy using it. You know, it unlocks the power of the color correctors built into our cameras. Even the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K has a color corrector built into it, and it costs less than $1,000, so I think it's really nice. Now, the ATEM micro camera panel plus a camera is really an incredible combination because you get the full CCU and live production experience. It's really great. Okay, so we have some new software for our HyperDecks. This will be an update for HyperDeck Extreme and the Blackmagic Video Assist, and it'll support syncing the Blackmagic Cloud. So this means that HyperDecks and Video Assist can sync the remote DaVinci systems, which will be really nice. And that update should also be available in a few weeks, so keep an eye out for that. I thought I'd just mention that when we're talking about the HyperDecks. Okay, now let's talk about ATEM Mini. A lot of people have been building some really high-end studios with our ATEM Mini Extreme, and that's great. But the current ATEM Mini Extreme is really an ATEM Mini Pro with more inputs. So we felt like we could do a higher-end model. We've done that. It's called ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2. It's basically the second generation. Still a HDMI switcher, but it's a lot more powerful. So let me bring one out and show it to you. Here it is here. Actually, I'll move this over here. There it is there. So it's a wider design. It's got a much better layout. The audio mixer controls are the same as the ATEM TV Studio, so that's quite different. Now, the input buttons are also much nicer. They're the same buttons we use on our ATEM advanced panels. And most high-end people wanted better buttons. It was one of the biggest requests we had. The switcher has 8 HDMI inputs, but it's actually got 10 input buttons because you can now assign them, so it's great. And also the cut and the auto buttons also are the same type. They're really nice high-quality buttons. Now, we have audio mixer controls with 10 knobs and Solemn and select buttons. We also now have a manual transition fader here. It's the same as a T-bar, but it's a low-profile fader type one instead, so it's more portable, so you don't have things sticking up. It's got the 6 macro buttons along the top here, labeled macro 1 to 6, so you can trigger macros right from the panel. There's also a new feature where there's like a preview button. Now, this changes the input buttons to the preview button. So when you press it, the input buttons turn green, and then you can select the preview source, and then you can trigger that with the cut and the auto button. So you can do direct cut bus switching, but you can actually then sort of use a preview bus to do a transition. So it's really cool. You can do those transitions with the buttons, or you can do it manually with the fader. Now, down the middle, there's all the buttons for the audio mixer controls here. And there's also 4 upstream ATEM advanced chroma keys and 2 downstream keys, which we have here and here. So this switch has more keys than we had before. And you also have the buttons for recording up here, and there's also buttons to start the live streaming. There's some activity lights here for discs. Plus, there's some video output buttons over here that allow us to switch the outputs. This switcher has 3 HDMI outputs, and these buttons give you control over output 1 and output 2. And then, of course, we have the little fade to black button down the back there. So it's pretty cool. Now, just in general, this works in all the HD television standards. It has standards converters on all the HDMI inputs. It's got also 2 media players built in. The media pedal handles 20 stills and 200 frames of animation. It does ISO recording of all the HDMI inputs. Plus, it's got 2 independent DVEs, and it also has a super source, which is a multi-layer processor, like almost an independent multi-layer processor that's got its own 4 dedicated DVEs, which is really good for interviews. So in total, you actually get 6 DVEs in this, which is amazing. The multi-view supports up to 16 views, and you can customize it. So let's check out the back, and you'll see the connections, which is where a lot of the changes have happened in the back there. So a lot more connections. So starting from the end, we have a 6.5mm headphone socket for headphones. It was another really big request people had. We've got 2 XLR analog audio inputs that use the combo connectors, another huge request that people wanted. So you can plug XLR or jack cables into those. And also the analog inputs also have phantom power. Now, we've also added a MADI input for an additional 32 channels of audio into the switcher, which is great for connecting to like ATEM microphone converters. All those MADI inputs have dedicated audio channels. So this means you can really break out tons of microphones, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing interviews and things like that, you can have a lot of, you can record bands, you can have a lot of sound coming in. It's really good. You've got the 8 HDMI inputs on the back, and each input has got a standards converter. And also it supports camera control back through the HDMI back into the cameras, which is really good, because then you get tally and camera control through that, which means it works with the Pocket Cinema cameras or the Blackmagic Studio cameras, and you get tally and talkback and camera control. Sorry, not talkback, camera, tally and control. So you can also route the sources of the outputs. There's 3 HDMI outputs, and you can route the sources for those. So they're not just dedicated program outs that are actually quite flexible. You can put the program output of one of them, or you can select any of the input feeds or the multi-view to go out of those outputs. So you can actually connect up to 3 monitors behind your switcher. Now, all the HDMI outputs support timecode and plus a record trigger. Then there's also a Thunderbolt connection built in. It's extremely powerful. The single Thunderbolt connection gives you playback of 2 channels of video into the switcher, which is fill and key. Plus, you can get live video back from the switcher to the computer. And that feeds like a 4th switcher output that can also be routed. So this switcher's like got 4 outputs because you can capture the video source on the computer from that destination, which is actually a 4th source. The Thunderbolt port also has network access to the memory card on the back, or a USB disk. So that appears on your computer as a network connection as shared storage. And you can also edit the ISO files while the switch is recording. Also, actually, one other thing, it does the Thunderbolt actually trickle charges the computer as well. So if you've got a computer plugged in, it'll actually keep the computer charged. So what this means is you can use the computer as a media player, or you can use DaVinci Resolve for replay. It's got everything you need. It's also got 2 USB connections, if you can get a close-up of those, which have got the webcam support, or they can record to external disks by plugging them in. That webcam video out is really nice. It means you can run the program out into a computer. You can also connect a computer into the USB and get ATEM software control running. If you don't want to do network stuff, you can just plug the USB in, it'll recognize that and work. It's got a CF Express card built in. So the storage is built in now. It's not like a disk hanging off. You can actually put it in the switcher and take it with you. It's really good when you need portable access. Now you notice we've got two Ethernet ports. One is a 10G Ethernet port for fast access into the memory card. So all your editors can actually access the media over the network while you're actually doing production, which is amazing because you're recording ISOs, so someone else can be doing edits while you're recording. It becomes the center of an entire production workflow. There's also a 1G Ethernet on there, and that's for like control panels and connecting to the internet, things like that. Now, we've also got a 12-volt DC connector with a locking screw thread on it. So I thought it'd be good to show you some of the features that the switcher can do, particularly basically the new features. Now, to save time, I've actually got a switcher plugged in and connected already. So let's bring that out if I don't make a hash of it. So what I'll do is I'll move this across a little so I can get some space. We'll borrow this monitor. I'll move this over. Here it is here. Make sure I don't step on any of the cables. So there's the switcher there all plugged in. And I'll bring another monitor out. I'll leave a little bit of a gap between the monitors so I can reach in to operate the switcher. There it is there. And actually, that's the other thing I need to do. I've got to steal my monitoring connection from here and plug it into the switcher. So I've got 2 outputs. There we go. So I've done that. So there's 3 HDMI outputs, but I'll just use the 2 because I've got 2 monitors. I mean, 3 would be too many. Whoops. But there's 3 buttons on the panel that let me change the display on each one. So, for example, I've got 2 monitors. They should be showing the program at the moment. But I could select like between multi-view, an audio display, or video. So it's really nice when you've got a single monitor because those buttons on the front there, you can use for rapidly switching the display. So it's really good. So the video output button is interesting. There's a video output button there. What that does, you can do quite a lot with this. You can use it to switch the sources to other sources. So basically, there's only space on the panel for 3 buttons. So we've made one of the buttons use the other buttons on the panel to then do other outputs. So if you hold that video output button down, you can select other sources. So if you pressed and held the video output button, then press one of the input buttons, you'll get the input routed directly out. It's the same thing as when you go to one of the menus in the software control and just select an input to go out of one of the outputs. If you press and hold the video output button and push the preview button, then you get a preview video going out that output. And if you press and hold the video output button and push the cut or the auto buttons, you'll get program video out. So let me show you how that works. So what I'll do is I'll change the video output to the different outputs. So that's one there. So I can go switch different sources coming out, which is pretty cool. That's now setting one of the inputs to come out. Or I can do the video out to program by pushing that. Now that's the program view, which is pretty cool. Now let's set this other monitor here to the multi-view, because then we can see what's going on. And there's a direct button for that, so I can just pretty much push the multi-view there, and there's my multi-view. And so you can also, of course, change those outputs in the software control, because there's that output menu that lets you do that. So let me show you how this whole control panel works. So you can cut between sources directly. It's all pretty simple. So you can see here, especially if you look at the multi-view output, I've got the program view coming out as well. You can see I can just cut between sources. So that's all very easy to use. But if you press the preview button, you get the preview bus. So let me show you that. See? Now I can press the preview source, and now I've got a preview source. And you can see it changed green. So we've selected a preview source now. Now we can do cut and auto between those two sources. Or you can do it manually. And that's really the big reason why we needed the preview bus, because we've now got a manual fader control. So you can see it there. It's really nice. You've got great control. Now, if you look at the top view, actually, I've just realized I haven't got it lined up properly. Let me just move. I've got an overhead view here that I can get a better shot there. I'll move this monitor a little. So you can see over the top there, if you can look down on that top view, this is where you can start and stop streaming here, and it can also start recording here as well. Now I've got ISO recording turned on, so it'll record all the input video to separate files off every input. So let's start recording. There you go there. Now that's recording to the internal memory card. Okay, so now let's check out the audio mixer. Now first I have another video output source. It's actually a Fairlight audio status, which I didn't show you before, but it's the third button over here. So let's set video output 1 to the audio source. There it is there. So it's really nice. It's a Fairlight audio status display. It's really nice to have. It actually provides so much power. So if you look at that, if you can cut to that status display, what you're seeing along the top there is all the audio inputs that are coming into the switches. You can see all the video inputs there. You can see all the MADI input channels. We've got a MADI connected with just simulating audio coming in. You've got loudness and monitoring audio on the right-hand side. Now, across what you've got is all these different audio channels. And then along the very bottom, you've got the same menus that are on TV Studio. So the bottom menus are actually really important. They're the same menus as ATEM TV Studio, and they use all the buttons across here and the knobs to control them. So what that means is if we select levels, which we're actually already in, I can now adjust a level control, and you can see I'm winding down the level on input 1 there. I can adjust it up and down, so that's really cool. But if I want to do processing such as EQ, then it uses all the knobs together. So, but I have to select which audio channel, which video input is going to be using all the knobs. To do that, I can use the select buttons along the bottom there. So I can select, like say camera 2, for example. You can see now it's highlighted camera 2. So now when I press EQ over here, the knobs will all work together on that channel. So if I press EQ, you can see now, and you can see the status display, the EQ controls will come up along the bottom. The status display has changed quite radically because now it's inside the channel. So now I can adjust the EQ controls, and all these knobs are the same as the parameters along the bottom of the status screen. So if I start adjusting things, you can see I'm adjusting a position, and I can now adjust the gain of this channel. And this is channel 2, because that's what I selected. I can move things around. It's really cool. So you can see the channel. So this is actually, I probably should pause for a moment and explain exactly what's going on here. Now I'm in the channel. What you're seeing is a visual representation of the entire processing pipeline for that channel, and I'm adjusting the EQ part of that. And in the bottom section, I've got all the controls, all the parameters laid out as all just individual controls, so you can see what the status of everything is. And then along the bottom, I've got the EQ controls. So it's pretty cool, and you can see the status screen. Now, pushing the select button is a great way to change between channels, and I can keep doing that. If you see, I can move across, and you can see that the selection is changing there. But what we can also do is we can use the preview bus, because the selection will follow the preview bus. So if I go into the preview bus here, and then I can select the channels, you can see it switching the selection, particularly if I move between 1 and 2, because the 2 is where I adjusted the EQ, and you can see that happening there. And as you select the preview sources, it'll just follow along, which is pretty much what you're doing. You're generally selecting the preview channel input before you then run it on air. So you can select preview and do your audio adjustments, and it's keeping up with you. So I have other controls in here. You can see I've got the EQs on, I've got expander, compressor. These controls are currently turned off, limiter, gate, but I've also got camera control. So I can bring that up as well, and I can do a whole bunch of camera control on the knobs here. So there's a lot of stuff in here. It's really cool. Now, I want to talk about another new feature. It's the Thunderbolt connection. Now, we have a Thunderbolt cable from this switcher over here to this iMac over there. Now, the single Thunderbolt connection has both the video and the networking. It's got video in and out, but the video output has fill and key, so it's actually kind of like a 2-channel output. And you can use DaVinci Resolve as a media player. So let's play a media file with an alpha channel, and you can see how it works. But first, we'll have to set up a downstream keyer. So we'll go to DSK1, which is downstream keyer 1, and we'll select the Thunderbolt input. And you can actually see how this works. So if you come over, you can see in the user interface here, I've got the downstream keyer, and I can just select the Thunderbolt fill and the Thunderbolt key. Whoops, wrong one. There it is. Then I can turn on the keyer. So I already have a DaVinci Resolve project here with some stingers in it. So let's play one. So we'll open it up and we'll go into some stinger files and we can play them. There it is there. Now they have an alpha channel in them, and the alpha channel becomes a key input into the switcher. And this Thunderbolt connection is 2 sources, fill and key. So that's how it works. Now, we don't actually want the key to come through when you're editing. So we can actually mute the video output when it's not playing to air. DaVinci will blank the video output inside the switcher when it's not playing to air, which is really great when you're doing replays, because DaVinci knows when it's playing to air because there's a run button on the user interface and it'll actually run it, which means it'll unmute. So there's buttons on the panel for that, which I'll just point out here, over here. These are the replay controls. There's dump, run, and, cue, run, and dump. So let's open the replay palette and we'll turn on the mute feature. Oh, there it is. It was already open. So we can go into here and that'll shut the video off when we're not playing to air. And also, we'll turn on the auto stinger as well because we'll do a replay. So let's turn on the auto stinger feature. And now I've got these stingers here and they'll load in. It'll use these stingers when we run. So now we're ready basically to do a replay. And that's the other big thing that you can really use this for is replay. So let me show you how the media works first, because what we've got to do is get the media from the switcher. We're actually still recording, so we've got to get the media across. So ATEM Mini has a CF Express card that actually works as network storage, and we get access to that through the Thunderbolt connection. The computer thinks the Thunderbolt connection is actually an Ethernet adapter, one of those Ethernet adapters you plug in. So the computer's connected to the network via the switcher. And you can use you can access the CF Express media on the desktop, but that's how we then bring it in DaVinci. So let me show you how that works. So I'll minimize DaVinci and I'll bring up the Finder. There it is there. And there's our demo media. There it is there. So that's what it's recording, the project and the ISO files. You can see them all there. And I can actually open one of those. There it is there. And that media file is being recorded. There's the program. So that's pretty cool. So now we've got that mounted, what we'll do is we can do a replay. So let me show you how we do a replay. So first I got to load the media into the project. So let me do that. So I can just go along here and we'll find our media. Oops, wrong device. That was a Hyperdeck. There they are there. Now we've got our media files. Now I can press the source tape and scroll through the media. The source tape acts like an automatic timeline, like DaVinci basically creates it. It strings all your media together end to end. So you can visually browse and just scroll up and down. It even flattens the bin. Let me show you. So if I go into the source tape, now you can see all my cameras end to end, and I can just scroll up and down that and play. But we don't really want to see our sources end to end because what's the use of that? We really want to see them in a multi-view, all synced up in time. It's essentially in parallel. So to do that, we actually have a setting for the source tape, which is called multi-source, and it lines up all the matching time codes, all the shots by time code in a multi-view. So if I turn that on, here we are. Now we've got all our shots. You can see it's now a single duration, but we've got all our shots in the one multi-view. So you can see all our cameras. So it's really cool. So it's recording 8 video input streams while it's now playing back 8 video output streams. And so you can see if I go to the end of the viewer, you can see those streams coming in. You can see the playback point moving back as the additional media is coming in. And you can also see it clocking up over here. So it's pretty cool. Now we've already turned on the auto stinger, so our replays will play the stinger. So now we can do a replay. Now a great way to do that, so you can see it, is to connect the output So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the status display to the program out so you can actually see what it is, as we'll link that out. So let's change output 1 to program. There it is there. And now when we switch the viewer on the input view, you can see we can wait for something to happen. So if I go back over here, I can select the input view, which is here. There it is. So what I'm doing is I'm watching a multi-view from the ATEM. Now the ATEM Mini has 4 video outputs, like I think I was saying before, and 3 of those outputs are obviously dedicated outputs, but the 4th output is a Thunderbolt video input to here. So you can route the source into that. So I just routed the multi-view from inside the switcher to that 4th output, which is what's coming through here. And that's why I can see that in the viewer here. So then the viewer now is basically watching a live input. And I can switch to the input using this button over here. There it is there. Now there's also a button on the replay panel. So I'll bring a replay panel out now, which is here it is there. So this obviously makes everything so much easier to use the replay panel. So I'll use the replay panel. It's got an input button on it, so I can just select that. So now what we do is we watch for something interesting to happen. And when something interesting happens, we set a POI, or a point of interest. Now there's a button for that as well on the panel. And a POI tells DaVinci where to restart shots when we play different camera angles. Because once you're playing one camera angle, you need to re-cue back before the next camera angle, and it'll do it before the POI. Now the POI time basically comes in from the timecode input from the live input view. So when we set a POI, a few things happen really quickly. It'll set the POI using the video input timecode, but it'll also switch the viewer back to playback, and it'll cue the viewer to the POI. It's all automatic. And this all happens when we press one button. So let's do it. Now there is a set POI button on the keyboard, but there's also one on the UI, which is down here. There it is there. But we can use the space bar as a shortcut, and it's much faster because it's easy to get to. So all we have to do is press the space bar. Okay, there it is. So that's great. So a whole bunch of things here. If you saw the viewer, you can see a whole bunch of stuff happen. We switched from the input back to the playback, and we've also marked there's a POI has been set, captured from the timecode coming from the input, and we've also queued the playback to that point. I think we have a little indicator there, show us how far away from the POI we are. So now all I have to do is scroll back a little to get a little bit of space before, so we can see the lead up until the event that happened. And then we're pretty ready to go. We'll select a camera. I think camera 2 looks pretty good. That looks nice. And so we're pretty much ready to go. Now, all we need to do is press run to start, and then DaVinci knows that it's in a replay. Now we have a run button up the top in the UI here, but there's also a run button on the replay keyboard, and there's a run button over on the front panel of the ATEM Mini Extreme. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, let's do it. So we'll push run. Now, if you see the program out, you can see we've run our stinger. Now we're doing our replay, and we can even slow down once we get towards the action. We can slow it down on the keyboard. There it is there. So it's pretty cool. That white flash in the multi-view was actually the POI. So we can run it back up again. That looks pretty good. Now we're past the POI, so let's pre-roll by pushing camera 1, and now we're pre-rolling to camera 1, and we can see a different view. And now we can go to camera 3, which is a gold camera. So that'll also pre-roll that, and we can also run that down in speed. So there you go there. It's pretty cool. And also you can see that the new feature in DaVinci 20 is it marks the cameras we've used in blue. Let's go to camera 4, which is a terrible camera to use because it's all the way down the other end of the hockey match. But we can also get the crowd shot, camera 5. So there's the crowd reaction. So there we are. So that's all there really is to it. And then when we're finished, we can push the dump key. It'll rerun our stinger, and we come out. So there it is. That's a replay all happening from that single Thunderbolt port. Now we've done the replay, but DaVinci remembers it. So if we push this button here, add to timeline, it'll now add the replay into the timeline, and there it is there. You can actually see the POI points. So that's pretty cool. You can slide a clip. And you can also see we've remembered our speed changes, but you can clear the speed changes on the keyboard pretty nicely. So it's pretty cool. And there's our edit timeline. And that's just the whole replay dumped into the timeline. Oh, and the other thing too, you can actually go and add transitions if you want. You can do them in the replay, of course. So it's all pretty nice. You can trim. So it's great. Now, if you wanted to then post that on social media, you can just do a quick export, and there you go. So that's all there is to doing replays, and it's all built into the ATEM Mini Extreme G2. So I think this Thunderbolt connection will make a lot of new ideas possible. You know, it's a switcher that lets DaVinci Resolve become like the world's best media player. But it uses the Decklink API, so any software could do this, and there's a lot of software out there that already works with Decklink. So I think this new model of ATEM Mini Extreme does everything people needed. It has better buttons. It's got a better audio mixer. It's got the preview bus with the transition fader. It's got XLR audio connections and a headphone socket, and it's localized for a whole bunch of languages, so it's pretty cool. There's a very powerful switcher, but it's also easy to use, but it's got broadcast features. So the new ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2 will be priced at $1,995. Now, it's a little bit more than the model it replaces, but it's massively more powerful. And that's what people really asked us to do. They wanted a really much more high-end solution with the larger ATEM Mini. Okay, so I might just move these monitors together, and I might actually put the audio thing back up on the thing and create some space here. So we expect it to ship in June or July. It's going to be an incredible upgrade for current ATEM Mini customers. It easily fits into their high-end studios and adds a whole lot of new capacity. So I think it's going to be really good. Okay, so now let's talk about streaming. So we've been working really hard on streaming, and we're going to make some changes to our streaming products. Currently, our main streaming encoders are called, there's two Blackmagic WebPresenter models. Now, they're great, but they've got kind of a funny name, and it's causing a bit of confusion. Originally, when we made these, they were just SDI to webcam converters, and they used software on the computer to do the live streaming. But then we replaced it with a new model that did the streaming directly. They have hardware H.264 and H.265 encoders in them. Plus, they have a nice down converter built in, which means you can pick your standard streaming standard independent of the switcher standard. So even the HD model has a 12G SDI input and a standards converter. So it means you could be running an Ultra HD and streaming in HD, and it's fine. So they're great products, but they have a funny name. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the name. So now Blackmagic WebPresenters will be called Blackmagic Streaming Encoders. So we'll have a Blackmagic Streaming Encoder HD and a Blackmagic Streaming Encoder 4K, and then make them a lot easier to understand. And they'll be the same price. And we'll have a single Blackmagic streaming software utility that'll run both. And then we have a single streaming utility for all the streaming products. But when it comes to decoding, we have a different problem. Our current hardware decoder is called ATEM Streaming Bridge. Now, it was designed to allow a direct streaming link from an encoder or a camera to SDI. So it would decode the stream to SDI. And then you could connect the SDI into a switcher like our ATEM switchers. It also has a reference input that's SDI, so you can connect it to the switcher output, and then the switcher output would send tally and talkback and camera control back up the stream to the camera. So that's very cool. And our remote streaming cameras can get a tally when they're on air. I mean, you imagine how nice that is. Even though the stream's on air, when the camera is actually on air, on the receive side in the switcher, it sends that tally back to the camera no matter where it is in the world. It's pretty cool. So then also with the control, the camera operator can color match the remote streaming camera. So it's really cool. I mean, the guys in the control room can even do iris and focus. So it's pretty cool. But one of the things we couldn't do is with the streaming bridge is well, there's a bunch of things we can't do with the streaming bridge that I'm about to show you. So we need a new hardware decoder, and we built that, and it's called Blackmagic Streaming Decoder 4K. It's also nice because it's a rack mount design. It's 1/3 rack width, and it can decode both H.264 and H.265. The old one could only do H.264. And it also now works in HD or Ultra HD. So let me show you. I'll bring it out. Here it is here. In fact, I'll move this over here. It looks kind of cool there. Now, it's similar to the Blackmagic Streaming Encoder. So let's check out the back. See it there? It obviously decodes. Now, it's got AC power, plus it's got a broadcast 12-volt DC power input for redundancy. And it's got both HDMI and SDI video outputs. And even the HDMI can do Ultra HD. Then we have a SDI reference input, and that's SDI because we want to get the program output of the switcher, because that then means this encoder can get the talkback, tally, and camera control, and it can send it back up the stream. Then it's embedded into the SDI monitoring output on the streaming encoder side, or you can connect multiple cameras at the other end, at the encoder end, because it sends control to all the cameras. Like, basically what it means is you can take that SDI output of the encoder side and send it to a whole bunch of cameras over there, and it'll distribute that, because all the camera numbers are actually transmitted up. So you select the camera number on the cameras. But a lot of Blackmagic cameras also have streaming built in and a color corrector. So if you're streaming directly from a camera to here, that'll also work. But in this case, you don't need the encoder because it's actually built into the camera. So let's bring it around and show the front. So I won't demo it because it works exactly the same as the ATEM Streaming Bridge. You can even create an XML file from here and send it up to the encoder with all the settings or the camera. And that can be loaded into the encoder or the camera to automatically configure the settings to send the stream here. So it all works exactly the same as the ATEM Streaming Bridge, but this model is Ultra HD and rack mount. So I think it'll really help when setting up studios and control rooms, particularly centralized control rooms. So the Blackmagic Streaming Decoder 4K we priced at $675. It's almost complete, and it should be shipping in about in a month or two. But the good thing is it's got the power to do some of the new things we want to do, and one of those things is global streaming. So let me head down the other end where the computer is, and I can show you that. So one of the problems we had with the streaming decoder, doing it directly, is your internet connection. You have to have a fixed IP address for each decoder. You have to have special internet setups, and it's not really easy for most people. So to fix this problem, what we've done is we've added streaming into Blackmagic Cloud. Now, Blackmagic Cloud lets you manage all your streams in a single place, and all the streaming products just log into Blackmagic Cloud, which is super easy. So it's very easy to set up. It basically works the same as our Video Hub routers, so it's really easy to use. We actually started working on this before COVID, but then we got distracted with all that. So let me show you how it works. So if I go over to the Blackmagic Cloud screen over here, actually let me quit out of DaVinci first. I'll put the replay panel away. We'll quit out of DaVinci. And I'll bring up Blackmagic Cloud. So you can see it there. Now we can see there's a new app called Stream Routing. This is where we can connect and route live video streams. So there it is there. And it's showing us a new router. So to do anything, I need to create a virtual router. So let's do that. So I'll call it demo. And let's make a small 4x4 router. 4 inputs, 4 outputs. Let's create that. Cool, there we are. Now we have a blank router. Now it's basically the same as a Video Hub router. You select destinations along the bottom, and then you select the source along the top that you want to route into that destination. Now a Video Hub router already has its connections because it's a physical device with real SDI connections on it. But with Blackmagic Cloud, you have to define that. You have to set the ins and outs up. So let's do that. So the first thing, let's set up a source as a camera. Now, lots of Blackmagic Design cameras have streaming built in, and we'll be updating them so they can stream directly to Blackmagic Cloud. But let's edit a source button first. So we'll click on 1 there, and we'll give it a name. We'll call it Camera 1. And we can also assign it an icon. So let's, we'll make it a Pixis. There it is. And we can also assign it to somebody, but let's leave that for the moment. There we are. Now we've got it, there it is. So that's all there really is to it. Now we need to have a camera that we can log into Blackmagic Cloud as a source. So let's do that. And I've got a Pixis here. So if I can bring that up here. There you go there. Now to save time, I've already logged into Blackmagic Cloud and I've got a wide Ethernet cable on this one. So I just need to go into the streaming menu and set the source. So let's do that. So I go into the streaming menu. I don't know if you can get a close up of that. There it is there. So I can click on that and I can select Camera 1, which has come up from Blackmagic Cloud, and I can go connect. And I exit and I turn on the streaming. Whoops, just turned it off. There it goes. Now, any sources you created are assigned to yourself will be in this menu because I've logged in under this under myself. But some sources can be assigned to you from other people, and they'll also be in that menu. It means I can invite other people into this stream routing. They just log into their own personal ID on Blackmagic Cloud, and they'll see any sources I assign to them. And you can see that the source, if you look over here, you can see little icons appeared on the top of the source, and that means it's detecting a stream, and that's coming in now. So that's pretty cool. There it is there. So that means we've got one source with a stream coming in. But we need to obviously set up a destination or we can't route the stream anywhere. So we can use a Blackmagic streaming decoder for this as a destination. And this will convert the stream coming out, going out back to SDI. And that's why I didn't demo the streaming decoder before. Now we've already got one connected, so I'll bring it out. There's the streaming decoder that's actually wired up. And I'll just put it down here so you can see it. There it is there. Now, it's already logged into Blackmagic Cloud, so let's set up a destination for this decoder. So we'll click on Destination, and we'll call this is going into the ATEM, so we'll call it ATEM 1. And what icon can we use? We'll use some kind of switcher icon. That'll do, whatever that is. And we'll be pretty good with that. There it is. So now what we need to do is we've got the destination set up. We need to select it on the decoder, and I can do that from the front panel menu. It's in the setup menu. So let me just do that. I'll just grab it and go into the menu, go setup, scroll down, select the source, set, ATEM 1, there it is there. So you can, if you can get a shot of that, it's listed in the menu as ATEM 1. It's kind of nice you can do this on the front panel because if it's rack mounted, you can just select different sources and repurpose the decoder. So I'll set that. I'll go out of the menu. I'll put it back down there. Cool. Oops. Okay. Now all we need to do is route our source to our destination. So I click the destination, which is there, and then I route our source. And you should see the pictures coming through. So just like a router, you just basically select sources and destinations. It's pretty easy. Now there's also a take button up the top here, so you can use that if you want to use it. Some people like to use a take button. It doesn't switch obviously as cleanly as a router because it's a H.264 encoded stream, so there's a slight switch over time. So it's not like this is not a live production switcher, but it's really designed for routing your streams around. So you can use a take button because sometimes you can set the next source up and then you want to hit the take because you don't want it to immediately switch, but you can prime it ready to do it. So it's really cool. Now we've done the route and the decoder has the stream and it just waits basically for the stream to come in and it converts it to video. So what we can do is we can switch on the ATEM and see the video, which we actually already have coming out. So we can see the video on the monitor and this camera is coming into Blackmagic Cloud. It's coming back out through the decoder, back into the ATEM over here. So it's pretty cool. Now let's set up a second camera. And now we have one that's a remote user and it's up on the roof actually. So let's click on source 2 and we'll call it remote camera. 2, and we'll call it's also a Pixus actually, so we'll select another Pixus. But in this case, we want to assign it to someone else. This is not our camera, so we have to assign it. So we assign it to the remote user's Blackmagic Cloud account, then it'll appear in their menu. So we'll assign it to Demo 2, because Demo 1 is what we are, and we'll set that. There it is. Okay, now we need to contact them and we'll wait for them. They can actually see they've been waiting for this, so they'll obviously see the stream appear. They'll see their source appear in their list, and then they'll be able to set the stream up. So let's just wait for them to do that. There it is. So now we have 2 sources and we can switch between them. And you can see the icons there that's showing us an external user, and you can see who that is, which is pretty cool. So when you assign a source to someone else, you don't see it on our camera. It's not in your camera list. It moves over to them because you've assigned it to them. So let's switch to camera 2 from monitor 1 over there. So we'll just switch across and then we'll see the pictures switch over and we'll see the remote camera, which is actually up on our roof. There it is there. It's looking out across the city. So you can see I can just switch between different streams into the decoder, and the decoder will just input that out, what comes out through into the ATEM switcher. So this is a remote camera, which I can manage through Blackmagic Cloud. I think it's coming through 5G or something like that. So it's really cool. Now we also support tally and camera control back through the stream in Blackmagic Cloud. So we can send a tally and camera control back up to the stream, even when it's routed using Blackmagic Cloud. So let's I'll show you how this works. Now all ATEM switches output camera control and tally from their video outputs. It's embedded into the SDI video output. We just connect the ATEM SDI output to the stream decoder's reference input to get that to go back up the stream. So I'll do that. Have I got a cable here somewhere? I put my control panel on top of it. So all I need to do is plug the reference input to the stream decoder into one of the outputs of the ATEM switcher, which is here. There it is. And now, we can switch the stream to camera 1 back again, which is our camera here, so we can see, and I think you've got a shot over there. Now the camera here is already set to camera 1, and I have camera 1 selected on my switcher, so you can see the tally lights on over there, because now that's come on. I don't know if you can get a shot of that. There, if you can get a close-up of that tally light. So there it is there, and I think the tally's on the other side. Let me close the menu. There you can see the tally there. And you can also see the stream status coming up there as well. Now, if I switch on the switcher, if I bring up the switcher control, so I can just switch. There you see. It's pretty cool. So you can see that remote camera all through Blackmagic Cloud. It's all automatic. We can also do camera control. So if I go to the camera menu, I can adjust it. There it is there. It's pretty cool. I can also do color. Do pretty nuts colors. I'll reset it. It's pretty nice. The tally and the camera control are all output from the switcher. They're connected to the stream decoder. The control and everything's passed up through Blackmagic Cloud, back down through, back up to the source, which is the camera here. So the Pixus camera here gets its tally and control information via this link. It's pretty cool. Now we've been using Blackmagic Stream decoder here, but if you need to get a stream to a broadcaster quickly, you won't really have time to get them to a hardware decoder. So we actually have a software solution as well. We have an app called DaVinci Remote Monitor. Now normally it allows clients to watch a DaVinci color correction like a remote grade, something actually we developed during COVID so that clients could watch the grade independently of the colorist. Now we've added Blackmagic Cloud support to it so it can receive a live stream from Blackmagic Cloud. So let's set that up. So I'll minimize this. Now we don't really need to do much. I mean, obviously if it's logged in as us, we can see all these destinations, but let's set one anyway. So we go in here, we'll set a monitor looking icon and we'll call it DaVinci Monitor, and that looks pretty good. So we'll set that. There it is. And now we can go into the DaVinci Remote Monitor app and we can log in. Well, actually, it's already logged in, so we can just select the destination. So let's select it here. Let it start up. It's logging into Blackmagic Cloud. And there we are. And there's our demos. That's the one we just created. So we'll select that and join. Now we actually need to route a source into it. So let's route camera 1 into that. So then we can see that camera 1 coming through in the DaVinci Remote Monitor, which is this camera here. If a broadcaster needs to get really running really fast, they can download this app, and there it is there. They can download this app, they can run it on a Mac or a PC, and then they can go to full screen mode to get a good quality video output that they can convert to SDI. It's really simple and allows them to get up and running really quickly. It doesn't obviously have tally and camera control support because it's just a software app, but a broadcaster can get, they can install dedicated hardware for streaming later. So it's cool. Now, what happens if you need to add cameras quickly? So we also have an app called Blackmagic Camera. It works on an iPhone and Android, and it gives you a digital film controls on a phone. It's basically our software, our camera software on a phone. So it's pretty cool. It runs, even the biggest cameras run the same software now on a phone. It's been very popular. Now we've added Blackmagic Cloud streaming support. So you can now send a live stream from an iPhone or an Android phone into Blackmagic Cloud. So let me show you how that works. So let's set up another source. I'll need to get someone to bring over an iPhone for me. But I'll set up a third source here. And we've probably got some phone-looking icon here. We'll just use that. And we'll call it iPhone. Set that. There we are. So now we need to select the Blackmagic Cloud source on the iPhone for the streaming feature. So let's I've got an iPhone here. So I'll bring it over, there it is. So I'll go to Blackmagic Camera. There I am. Now I can set up the stream here on this panel. And I can select on here, if you can see that, I can select the phone demo there. It's the one I just set up. I go back and then I just turn on the stream, which is the menu there. Now we're live streaming around the studio. And of course it works this way. Well, I don't think it does it when you've got the stream on. So I'll turn the stream off. I can do it that way or this way. So I'll turn the stream back on. There I am. So I'll put that over there so we can see. And I can see I've got my stream up. If we go back to the screen, you can see the icons come up because the stream's there now. And let's switch that through to the decoder. There it is. So now it's coming through the ATEM and you can see it. There it is there. It's pretty cool. That's just a phone. That's really nice. Now we're decoding the live stream from the phone through the decoder. It's streaming out through mobile data. It's coming back around, which means you can bring people into Blackmagic Cloud instantly because they can just do this from their Blackmagic Camera app. They don't have to pay anything. They just have to download the app. You can assign them a source in your routing, and then they can just log into Blackmagic Cloud with their own personal Blackmagic Cloud ID. They'll see that source you've assigned them, and they can start the stream. And they'll even get a tally when the source is used on air, which is really cool. Because if you can see that there, there's actually a tally indicator there, which is pretty cool. So you can see that at the top of the screen. So they can even tell when they're on air. It's also easy. So let's route back to the Pixus. That's pretty cool. So I think this stream routing in Blackmagic Cloud will be really amazing. You don't have to really worry about complicated internet connections. You don't have to worry about weird streaming settings. you just log into Blackmagic Cloud and you start the streaming, and you can send all your streams through the Blackmagic Cloud routing in here. It's really easy, and it lets the camera operator stream to multiple broadcasters because you can distribute the stream from one source to multiple destinations. And you can build a central control room with multiple stream decoders coming in from different locations, and the remote cameras at different sites can come into that single studio, so you don't need to send broadcast trucks out on site. So it's much cheaper. I think it's a really nice solution. Imagine doing live production from your own office with remote cameras in various locations. It'd be so relaxing. It'd be quite nice. So we're about to start testing this publicly. So it's not quite available yet, but it should be available very soon. We really need to do a lot of public testing on this to make sure everything's working. It has to be really reliable. I mean, it's a broadcast solution. So we currently have all this running in HD. I think we're going to do Ultra HD later. As far as cost, we expect it'll be about probably $2 a destination per month, roughly. We'll probably know a bit more soon. But the good thing is you can have as many sources as you like, which means you're going to have a lot of cameras in different venues, each with their own source defined in here. It won't cost any extra. You just have to pay for the destinations, which are your streaming bridges into your routers or whatever you need to do. So we'll have a better idea of the exact price later. But I think it's a very low-cost way of doing it when you think about it, because you save a lot of money. I really can't wait to roll this out publicly. I think it'll be really cool. It's a lot of fun to use, that's for sure. And I think it's going to be so useful for live production. So the DaVinci Resolve monitoring app will also be available to download soon. If you need to receive a stream quickly, then you can just download it. It'll accept streams from Blackmagic Cloud in H.264 and H.265. And it has also the full screen mode, which I can show you quickly here. So that'll fade away, and then you'll be able to run the full screen. There it is. So you can just convert that out to video, and then basically now you've got yourself a hardware, a software decoder that you can go to air with, and a broadcast can get up and running instantly. So I think it's cool. Now we'll release the Blackmagic Cloud streaming. We'll release this update when the Blackmagic Cloud streaming is available. So as far as the Blackmagic Camera app, that'll also be updated when Blackmagic Cloud ships. It'll stream to it's the same UI as other cameras. We also have some other nice features in there, plus we're adding some more localization, like we're adding Ukrainian, Turkish, and Polish, other supported languages in there, so it'll be nice. We do posts on Facebook and X, so when all these things actually go out, we'll post on that, so just keep tracking us on that, and you'll know when things go out. But that's not all we've done. This is pretty cool, but that's not the only thing we've done. We've also been working on doing live production in the cloud. So we have a new ATEM Constellation switcher in the cloud. It's called ATEM Cloud Constellation HD4. It's actually a switch that's completely in the cloud, so you can rent it when you need a virtual live production studio. It has most of the ATEM Constellation features. So I'll run through the specs of it before I show you. It's basically a 1ME Cloud Constellation HD4. It's got 4 streaming inputs. They can be H.265 or H.264. Each input has a standards converter on it. We've got a lot of the features of proper constellations. So the good thing about the standards converter, you don't have to worry about what video standard's coming in. It just accepts it. It's also got 3 streaming outputs. So it's got 3 encoding stages in it. Now, they look like standard ATEM outputs from the point of view of how you use it, but they're encoded streams. Now, you really need 3 outputs. I think 1 or 2 outputs isn't enough. You need an output for your program video, obviously, but you need another output for your multi-view. But a third output's great for camera monitoring. When you're adjusting the color and iris on cameras, you need to kind of have a dedicated output for that. That's why you need 3 outputs. And you can see that your camera, you can see the camera you're adjusting independent of the program view. Now, the ATEM Cloud Constellation also supports Taulian camera control. It has a DVE in it, and the multi-view actually can show you up to 16 views. It's got 4 upstream advanced chroma keyers and 2 downstream keyers. It's got a lot. It's actually got too many keyers for the number of inputs, really, but it's got a lot of features. Now, ATEM software control will be updated to support it. So later we should be able to have ATEM Cloud constellations, like larger ones. We think the design we've developed will scale across multiple processors, and then we'll be able to add other parts of the ecosystem, like the ATEM Advanced panels. We'd like those to be able to log into Blackmagic Cloud, so you could use an advanced panel. But the ATEM software control works with the micro panels, so you could actually use the micro panels with the ATEM software control, then the ATEM software control drives the switcher. So I think it'll be pretty cool. So anyway, let's set up a switcher. Now, first we need to make some space here. I've got to clear a few of these things away. Actually, I'll leave that there, but I'll leave that there. So, okay. So what we need to do is now I need to show you how this works. So I need to go into the ATEM Cloud Constellation app. So if I go back to Blackmagic Cloud, you can see this is where you define a switcher. So if I go into Blackmagic Cloud, as this is still pre-release, I need the guys to buy a switcher for me. So if the guys can organize that for me. There it is. So it's quite simple. There's not really much to do in here, but it does appear in the stream routing. So let's go back to the stream routing. There it is. It's appeared. I'll shorten my window a little bit to let it line wrap all nice and good. So you can see it's added 4 destinations, and they're the switcher inputs over here. And it's also added 3 sources, and they're actually the switcher outputs. And you can see them there. So you can route these. So let's route the switcher outputs to our monitoring. And then the decoder can get the program out. So we'll get the decoder, which is there. And we'll take our program out, which has got nothing on it for the moment. And then we'll also take the multi-view to the DaVinci Monitor app here. So let's do that. So we can go to the DaVinci Monitor app, which is there. And we take our multi-view. And we'll see that appear. And we should see something. We haven't got any sources in yet, but there it is there. Okay, now let's connect some cameras. So what we'll do is we'll go to input 1, and we'll switch camera 1. We'll go to input 2, switch camera 2, input 3, and switch camera 3. We could even actually take input 4, switch that to the same camera, so that's pretty cool. There you go. So I've got all my cameras. Everything's there. There's the iPhone. And then there's the camera on the roof, and there's our camera, our Pixus just here. And then we've got a lower third. You can see we've got all this, and we've got all our sources. Now we just need control. Now we use the ATEM software control for that. So I'll bring up ATEM software control. There it is down there. And that's actually, yeah, that's logged into the cloud constellation. So there it is. Now this is a real switcher. If you've used any ATEM switcher, then this is very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. We have palettes for all the different features down the side here, transitions and wipes, you know, the DVE, it's all there. And I can switch around the program bus, so I can switch. In fact, if I bring up my monitoring app here, I could obviously use 2 decoders, but this will work. So as I switch my different sources, you can see my cameras there. So that's pretty cool. And I can also go and do a cut because I've got a preview bus. I can do the transition there. So it's pretty cool. And there's I've got manual transitions on the T-bar. And also you'll notice on the, if you can pick up the camera there, you'll notice that I've also got the tally coming back from the switcher. So that works as well. The cloud constellation sending tally back to all the sources. So I also have a hardware ATEM micro panel, which I'll bring out. There it is there. There's that. Now that's talking to the ATEM software control. So I get a really nice hardware control panel. So let's do some transitions. So there's the cut and there's the auto. So you can see it if you look at the program out. So we can cut to the program out and you can see, actually we've got a multi-view on it as well. So that's cool. You see it there. Actually, I'll bring this to the foreground and do it. So you got a full multi-view. And I can also use the fader. So it's so cool. It works just like a normal switcher. Now we have a lower third in the media pool. So let's turn on the downstream keyer. I'll auto that. There it is there. So you can even fade that on and off using the auto control. That's so cool. Now all the other features are available, such as media. I can bring this to the foreground and show you. So this is where I can load my media in here. So I've got the 2 media players. And I've also got a full Fairlight audio mixer in here. So you can see that's there. There's the audio coming in. I actually don't have any audio turned on, so I can do that. And I've also got all the effects stuff as well. That's all in there, so it's pretty cool. You get the effects on all the inputs, so it's pretty nice. And also it does camera control, so I can go across here to the camera control, and now I can control my cameras. We'll do this one here. There it is there. I'll cut to camera 1 so you can see it there. And there's my camera. So I'm doing the camera control, which is nice. I can do the colors, which is terrible colorist. And of course, if you have the camera control, the micro camera panel, then you can use that as well, because that'll work with ATEM software control. It's all there. So we'll be working on this and rolling it out after a whole lot of testing. We're not exactly sure when it'll ship. It depends how the testing goes, really, but it's got to be reliable. And we'll learn a lot as we start testing, and we'll let let everybody know about the cost at that point, but it should be pretty affordable. But I think it's a very interesting technology. It's really quite a nice solution. Imagine doing an entire live production in a hotel room. You can connect the computer HDMI to a hotel room TV and then run the remote monitor here, full screen on the TV, while you use the ATEM software control on your normal laptop screen. It's like a live production in a laptop. I think it'll be really cool. Okay, so next up, I wanted to talk about DaVinci Resolve 20. It's a really big update this year. We have more than like 10 new and improved AI tools. And a lot of those tools really help with tasks that are mundane or tasks that take a long time to do manually. So there's a lot of new features and in the edit and cut pages. We got a bit distracted over the last few years because we were rewriting a lot of code. We had to rewrite all the image processing because there was new types of CPUs with Apple Silicon and ARM coming along, plus new types of GPU processing such as Metal. So we had to rewrite everything. But we've done all that now, which means we're free to now build new features on top of that. Yeah, rewriting code takes longer, but it gives you a better base to build on. Anyway, I'm not going to demo really anything about DaVinci Resolve because I don't have the time, but I do have a video that's been prepared, and so I'll play the video and then you'll be able to see what's new in DaVinci Resolve. So let's play the video.
DaVinci Resolve 20 contains more than 100 new features, including an incredible collection of never-before-seen AI tools designed to speed up every stage of your post-production workflow so you can focus more on the creative aspects of filmmaking. Let's get started. There are extensive updates to both the cut and edit pages in this release. Among the most powerful are the new AI tools. AI IntelliScript automatically generates a timeline based on the original project script. First, transcribe the audio of all the clips you wish to use in your edit. Next, select the clips, right-click and choose Create New Timeline using IntelliScript. A dialog window will prompt you for the script text file. IntelliScript matches the transcribed clips against the script and generates a timeline of selected best takes. Alternative takes are placed on additional tracks and disabled to allow you to review and compare them afterwards. IntelliScript doesn't require the dialogue to be the same in every take. Even similar wording will be matched. And even if you don't have a script, you can create one by exporting the transcription of the scene's master take and then using that as the basis for the IntelliScript timeline. The audio transcription engine in DaVinci Resolve now supports over 60 languages, including Hindi, Cantonese, and even Maori. And the subtitle track now supports Fusion templates that animate speech as it is spoken. After generating captions on the subtitle track, open the Effects panel and scroll to the animated Fusion titles. Drag an effect onto the subtitle track header and watch the captions pop, slide in, and highlight to grab your viewer's attention as you speak. When adding music to a timeline, it can sometimes be difficult to cut the length of a music track to the duration of a scene. The AI music editor will extend or shorten a music track to a specific length based on the intuitive loops and edit points commonly found in music. First, select the clip and go to the Inspector's Audio tab. Under AI Music Editor, enter your target track length and click Adjust. Or select Live Trim and drag the audio clip to the desired location. The music editor will intelligently find natural edit points in the track based on the music composition and change its duration without using time compression, expansion, or altering the pitch. The result will immediately be visible on the timeline with indicators showing where the track has been edited. Use the version buttons to check out alternative solutions to the audio edit. You can even decompose your edit and use the sections of music separately if you wish. When editing to the beat, you can now right-click and select Show Music Beats to analyze audio clips containing beat-driven music and automatically place markers to indicate beats. Use these as visual indicators for cut points, or drag the snap clips to the beat markers at the nearest frame. The AI Audio Assistant will analyze the audio tracks in your timeline to create a pro-level audio mix. When working on a timeline with audio elements that are not mixed or balanced,
a lot of our bread and butter over the years has been these National Geographic expeditions.
Go to the timeline menu and navigate to AI Tools Audio Assistant. A dialog will prompt you for a delivery standard and then take you through the mixing process as the audio assistant organizes your tracks, evens out dialogue levels, adjusts sound effects and music to the dialogue track, and automatically creates a mastered final mix.
A lot of our bread and butter over the years has been these National Geographic expeditions, and this
is the perfect tool for editors who wish to simplify their audio workflow and feel more confident in their final mix. Use the revolutionary AI Voice Convert tool to apply a pre-generated voice model to an existing voice recording, retaining its inflections, pitch variation, and emotion. Right-click a dialog clip and choose Voice Convert to get started. DaVinci Resolve comes with 4 pre-built voice models, but you can always generate your own using sample recordings. For privacy and security, this voice generation and conversion is performed entirely on your local device, ensuring no unauthorized uploading and web access, even in cloud-based workflows.
This afternoon, we've rigged up the Pixis on the gimbal.
After rendering, the track will play with a selected model voice.
This afternoon, we've rigged up the Pixis on the gimbal.
Yeah, it's great. This is the most beautiful place I've ever been.
Yeah, it's great. This is the most beautiful place I've ever been.
From sailing the chundering massive waves of the Drake Passage.
From sailing the chundering massive waves of the Drake Passage.
This tool can be used to improve your own voice if recorded in a noisy environment, or for creating perfect ADR using the original actor's own voice, among many other applications. AI Dialogue Matcher matches one piece of dialogue to another, matching tone, level, and room ambience. First, select the primary reference clip.
Look at this bad boy.
More of an ambient sound.
This is a master.
Our target clip is way drier and more intimate.
Getting feedback from trusted partners.
In the clip menu, choose AI Tools, Dialogue Matcher, Capture Dialogue Profile. Click the target clips you wish to match and choose Apply Dialogue Profile.
Getting feedback from trusted partners.
This is a master cloud story.
Use this tool to match dialogue recorded in different environments, on different devices, or on shoots spanning several days. The Edit and Cut pages now feature a dedicated keyframes palette for easier navigation and editing of keyframed parameters. Switch between the keyframe curves and parameters mode to control keyframe placement, animation speed, and easing style. Additionally, you can expose the keyframe tray at the bottom of the Edit page to view all the keyframes of the currently selected clip on the timeline. When working with vertical timelines, the layouts of the Cut, Edit, and Color pages will automatically be optimized for working with a vertical screen. This ensures there is no wasted space in the viewer panel and reduces the need for zooming when working vertically. And if you use an ultra-wide monitor, dual screen operation is now supported to give you faster access to more controls. The AI Smooth Cut transition is vastly improved and can now handle longer discontinuities for seamless transitions between jump cuts. The new Multitext tool allows you to add and individually format several text layers within a single interface. Create a new text layer by pressing one of the layout icons: point, text box, or circle. Point behaves like a regular text asset with no boundaries. Text box allows you to warp or clip large sections of text to the confines of a text box. And circle will write the text in a circular fashion. Use the tabs at the top to navigate the many formatting parameters and design and animate your text exactly as you wish. Finally, you can use the text list to rearrange, lock, or remove text layers as needed. The Text Plus tool has also been updated to include the layouts point, text box, circle, or path styles, meaning you can control the layout of your text graphics with greater flexibility than ever before. When working with PSD files on a timeline, you can now right-click and choose to split the PSD layers in place in order to access and work with the individual layers. In the Media Pool, you can now import Blackmagic Cloud folders that have been shared with you across multiple Resolve projects and without the need for a Resolve project library. These will appear as virtual folders and clips until they are used in the project, after which they will be added to the Media Pool. Unused media will remain virtual. This allows collaborators to share a large repository of media they might use, including reference clips, titles, or sound libraries, and allows you to access and review all your available media while keeping your project media pool focused and organized. Also in the media pool, you can now drag clip thumbnails to sort them in any order you like. First, select the sort order icon in the media pool and choose Custom. At the bottom of the list, you can opt to have the thumbnails snap to grid for tidier media management. Then, drag and drop video clips and images around the media pool as needed. You can even select the clips and create a timeline based on this custom order. In the Cut page, new features help you edit faster and with greater precision. You can now drag in the viewer to live overwrite a camera angle directly onto the timeline. With either the sync bin active or when working with source tape in multi-source mode, drag horizontally to live paint at the playhead position, or drag down to turn the angle into a draggable clip. The Speed Editor also supports live overwriting with edit keys and the search dial. The Cut page now features a safe trimming mode that will prevent you from accidentally overwriting media at trim points. Available in the timeline options, when Trim with Safe Edit is enabled, you can drag the trim points of clips to fill gaps in the timeline without fear that you will affect neighboring clips. When you do reach a cut point, your action will be briefly paused by a timer. Keep dragging to override the timer and trim the adjacent clip with purpose. A new voiceover palette lets you quickly record a voiceover track during timeline playback. Activate in the toolbar and use the cue, record, and stop controls to record to a new dedicated voiceover track at the bottom of the timeline or any target audio track. Additional controls let you choose your recording setup, load and work with a prompt or script, and perform cleanup with the voice isolation, dialogue leveler, and stereo fixer tools. The new audio mixer panel allows you to easily balance and adjust your audio tracks. Each channel strip includes a left-to-right pan slider, fader, solo, and mute buttons. Click Expand to see the full range of audio tracks and check your loudness levels. A new metadata palette allows you to quickly review the camera angle, scene, shot, and take of a clip, as well as its frame rate and resolution. Activate by clicking the metadata icon next to the search field while the viewer is in source clip or source tape mode. There's also a new dynamic trim mode that you can select in the track ruler header. When the playhead appears yellow, you can slip or slide using the JKL keys on a keyboard or using the edit action and the in and out keys on the speed or replay editors. In the edit page, AI Multicam Smart Switch can automatically switch multicam angles based on the active speaker in a scene. After you have created your multicam clip, which now supports the selection of a single reference audio track, place it on the timeline and enable multicam mode in the source viewer. Click the AI Multicam Smart Switch button and configure your edit preferences. There are two modes. One for when you have a mic on each person, and the second, unique to DaVinci Resolve, for when you have only a mixed audio source that is common for all speakers. This tool not only analyzes audio for individual speakers, but can also utilize the video for lip movement to switch angles based on who is currently talking. In the Edit Page Source Viewer, the new Source Tape mode allows you to navigate a string out of all the media in the active bin. This allows for much faster review of dailies and quicker rough cut assembly. Another new mode allows you to turn the source viewer into a second timeline viewer. This means you can have two timelines open at the same time for comparison and simultaneous editing. The Timeline tab will highlight the active timeline viewer labels, blue for the source viewer and red for the timeline viewer, allowing you to jump between edits and retain focus on the correct viewer. This feature is even more powerful when working with stacked timelines. With both timelines open at once, you can quickly compare alternative edits and drag and drop media between the timeline panels. Conversely, we can also open source clips as a timeline, allowing you to view the entire clip length in order to set in and out points or markers, which can be helpful when working with long sources. Audio adjustment or cross-patching can also be handled in the Inspector's File tab Audio Configuration area. The Edit page also has a new voiceover feature. Click Record Voiceover in the toolbar and indicate the file name, audio input, and destination track in the dialog. You can also use the Options menu to specify additional parameters, like input monitoring and adding a countdown in the viewer. When ready, click the microphone icon to start recording. The Fusion page introduces several major updates, with the first one being the introduction of a compositing toolset for deep images. A deep image is an EXR file that contains multiple color, opacity, and depth samples per pixel. This allows for extremely accurate and flexible depth-based compositing. You can view deep images in the Fusion viewer as normal, or you can view them in Fusion's 3D environment by using the Deep to Points node. Deep images can be manipulated with a range of new nodes allowing you to merge, transform, resize, crop, recolor, and generate holdouts. However, unlike a 2D node, these nodes accurately account for the depth contained in each deep image. For example, the Demerge tool combines pixels based on their depth samples, so there's no need to arrange sources in layer order. Or, where you'd normally have to composite one image over another, you can now composite one image inside of the other. Deep image support in Fusion also allows you to render deep images directly from Fusion's 3D environment and even export deep EXRs with a Fusion Saver node. Fusion has now implemented support for multi-layer images across all nodes. This means Fusion can read multi-layer EXRs or Photoshop files, preview the layers in the viewer, and access and manipulate any layer in any node. The main way to interact with layers is through the Layers subcategory on the Selected Node Settings tab. Here, you can use the Process Layers dropdown to choose which layers receive the output of the active node. The Input Layer dropdown lets you choose which input layers to process. By default, this will match your process layers selection, but you can also choose a single input layer. This powerful workflow allows you to access layers at any point in the composition to adjust your image or to combine layers to build a new layer or even a final composite. Fusion now natively supports EXRs that include cryptomats. Cryptomats define all aspects of a CG render, allowing you to efficiently isolate specific assets, objects, or materials and manipulate them independently. The new vector warping toolset brings a range of tools that can be used for digital makeup, precise mapping of images onto complex dynamic surfaces, motion vector-based noise reduction, and other creative vector warp-based effects. Fusion now has an enhanced dome light tool, allowing you to light your Fusion 3D scenes with 360 HDR eyes. The VR360 tools have been extended to now support VR180. Not only can you adjust VR180 images with tools like Spherical Stabilizer, Lat-Long Patcher, and Panomap, you can now also render 3D scenes to VR180 using a spherical camera and Renderer 3D. In addition to these major updates, Fusion has received various quality of life updates, including user-selectable start frames for compositions, the ability to view a clip's active color grade through the Media Out node, and faster GPU acceleration for various tools. The Color page has seen substantial upgrades in its existing tools. In the Color Warper, the new Chroma Warp lets you create natural looks using an intuitive warp interface. Use the normal stroke mode to select a color in the viewer and drag to simultaneously adjust its hue and saturation. Use point-to-point mode for greater precision. Isolate specific color ranges and shift them as needed. Add pinpoints to isolate regions you do not want to affect. And use the parameters in the sidebar to further refine your selection. AI Magic Mask has been completely updated with an all-new process that produces far more accurate tracks and now operates within a single mode, allowing you to select people and objects faster and with greater results than ever before. Use points to make selections, and the paint tools to include or exclude regions of the image. Use the transport controls at the top to analyze and track the selections, and then use the mask finesse parameters to refine the resulting matte. If desired, the legacy object mask modes remain available in the palette options. Dramatic improvements to the AI depth map effect means you can now get much quicker scene analysis and more practical mattes. As usual, after application, you have the ability to adjust the resulting matte and isolate specific depths for grading. The Legacy Depth Map tool is still available by setting the quality parameter to faster. When using the Resolve Warper effect, the new Curves Warp mode allows you to create a custom polygon with spline points for even more intuitive image warping. When working in high dynamic range formats, you now have the ability to generate HDR light level PDF reports. Multiple improvements have been made to the remote monitoring feature. You can now opt to display power windows and other overlays while remote streaming. This option has been designed for colorists or their clients who might be working on a system in a remote location and need to see overlays on their local monitor. Additionally, you are now able to remotely stream H.265 422, and remote monitoring is now available on DaVinci Resolve for Mac. DaVinci Resolve 20 supports ACES 2.0, an improvement over previous versions which offers more neutral and accurate output transforms, enhanced gamut mapping, and better HDR support, and addresses earlier issues like hue skews and workflow complexity. And the Samsung Log color space has been added to the list of color management operations to give you greater control over the extended dynamic range recorded on the new S25. The Fairlight page has many great new additions and feature upgrades. Automation improvements now allow either global behavior or per-channel automation mode switching, giving you greater flexibility and speed during a mix. You can now set some channels to be in snap or latch mode and others in trim or the new trim read mode, all in the same pass. Trim read lets you trim levels up or down without writing automation in order to try different levels before committing your changes. Right-click the Track Automation button on a channel to choose a different mode, or use the default global option to follow the designated settings in the automation toolbar. The new AI IntelliCut provides powerful clip-based audio processing to handle tedious audio tasks in seconds. The Remove Silence feature analyzes your audio clips for low-level or silent areas and automatically removes these sections for a cleaner audio track. Define a range in the timeline, right-click an audio clip, and choose Remove Silence to instantly see the detected silent sections in the clip. In the dialog window, adjust the decibel threshold and other handles as needed. Use the checkbox at the bottom to add automatic fades to each
In the
edit.
filmmaking process, the more fun you can make it, the better your story will be.
Checkerboard to new tracks splits a dialogue source clip to separate tracks for each speaker, allowing individual mix and processing control. It's an essential step for post-dialogue editing and mixing. Just right-click on a selection of clips, choose AI Tools, then Checkerboard to new tracks. The clips are analyzed and then split into individual tracks ready for mixing, leaving the original clips muted. If your scene needs dialogue replacement, IntelliCut can create an ADR list from the dialogue. Select your clips in the timeline, right-click on AI Tools, then choose Create ADR Cues. You can opt to run speaker identification when working with an audio clip that features multiple speakers. Then open the ADR panel to see your new cue list and update the character names in the ADR Setup panel. Fairlight now includes 2 new clip processing options, EQ Matcher and Level Matcher, both found in the main clip menu or the timeline's Clip Operations context menu. These clip operations let you adjust a target clip's audio to match a reference clip's level or tonal spectrum. Create an EQ or level profile from a clip and apply it to another clip as a real-time process. You can even EQ match dynamically so it is automated across your clip to maintain a tonal match. And the results of the level matcher help you seamlessly intercut clip sections.
So now it was time
You can now
to
create
travel
custom
for weeks
effects
on
chains
end,
with your
land
favorite
in a-
plugins and operations with the new Chain Effects plugin. Add up to 6 effects in a chain, customize settings, and save the preset. You can even combine chain effects plugins for longer chains in the chain effect slots. Over in the inspector, you'll find the improved Clip EQ with 6 bands on the Cut, Edit, and Fairlight pages. This allows for more tonal control at the clip level and matches the track EQ in the mixer. So now you can easily copy and paste settings between the clip, track, and EQ plugin for more consistent, flexible, and precise control. These final updates affect general DaVinci Resolve operation. When a new project is created in the Project Manager, you will now be prompted to assign a location for your internally generated project media. This means that files created in DaVinci Resolve, like voiceovers and voice conversions, will automatically be stored in the same project media folder. The Resolve Extras Download Manager allows you to selectively download gigabytes of various AI models and other feature add-ons. Currently, this includes the voice trainer and an extended language support model. More options will be added for downloading in the future. You can now assign custom presets to the Quick Export dialog. In the Deliver page, go to the Render Settings options, find a custom preset, and choose Add to Quick Export. This preset will now appear in the Quick Export dialog of the Cut, Edit, and Color pages, allowing you to perform quick renders without the need of a render queue. As usual, DaVinci Resolve supports an ever-growing list of codecs and deliverable workflows. This includes support for spatial video encoding, decoding Blackmagic Raw using the latest SDK 4.5, and the new Ursa Cine immersive clips. Additionally, you are now able to remotely stream H.265 from macOS systems and those using NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs. Many of DaVinci Resolve's beloved tools have been significantly enhanced in this version. Superscale now features 3x and 4x enhanced upscaling, ensuring the highest visual quality of all the media in a project, regardless of source resolution. In the Preferences, the new Cache Management section allows you to automate the handling of old cached files and to configure audio and source clips as multi-mono upon import. Finally, we also want to mention 2 new features coming very soon. With the recent release of the Blackmagic Ursa Cine immersive camera, new tools and parameters have been developed throughout DaVinci Resolve to support Apple immersive workflows, including support for spatial audio. This means you'll be able to ingest, edit, grade, mix, and professionally deliver media for the Apple Vision Pro. The AI Set Extender generates new visual content in a scene based on a simple text prompt. This generative process will automatically fill in missing regions of a frame, creating a finished environment in shots with blanking, cropping, and limited angles. You can also indicate a custom region to create a new background behind a selected foreground object. The AI Set Extender will be a Blackmagic cloud service with details to be made available later this year. We hope you enjoy using these new features in DaVinci Resolve 20. Thank you for watching.
As you can see, this is a really big release, and there's even more features than this. So DaVinci Resolve 20 is free to download. The paid version of DaVinci Resolve Studio is also free. We'll probably eventually charge some kind of upgrade for this, but for the moment, we're still doing the DaVinci Resolve Studio upgrade free. Now we have a public beta that you can download now, and then you can try out all those new features, so it's pretty cool. Plus, one thing we'll be doing at NAB is showing the Vision Pro workflow as well. We've been putting that into DaVinci. We'll have some Vision Pros on the booth, plus an Ursa Cine Immersive. And then we can show the immersive camera workflow with Resolve 20. It's all new, and we're adding features as we go. It's all very exciting. It's like a whole new viewing experience. It's awesome. And it's all integrated into DaVinci Resolve 20. There's so many different ways immersive can be used. So it's going to be fantastic just to have conversations with everybody about it. Okay, so now let's talk about Blackmagic Cloud. Now, Blackmagic Cloud ties all these workflows together from a production point of view. So we've also been working on some new features in Blackmagic Cloud for post-production. There's a lot of improvements we can add, and one of the areas we've worked on is storage. So currently, Blackmagic Cloud Storage is linked to a DaVinci Resolve project, but that's quite limiting. So now you can create a cloud folder without a library. It's just shared storage, and you can then create it and share it. You can access it in DaVinci Resolve, even in a local project. So let me show you. So I'll just let me just declutter a few things here. I'll get rid of this panel. I don't need the switcher panel now. And I'll just quit a few things. Okay, so we have the cloud section here, and I'll go to cloud storage here. So this is where we set up the cloud folder. So let's create one. Well, actually, the guys have already created one for me. I mean, it doesn't look like much without any clips in it, but let's drag some files in. So we'll go to, this is actually the Hyperdeck Shuttle Pro over there. So what we'll do is we'll just drag the proxy folder in to save ourselves some time, so we don't have a lot of time. So you can see it's now uploading the clips here, and there's an upload status. Oh, it's done. And so you can see it uploading, and the clips will then be listed when they're whenever load. So you can see the clips have arrived, and then the thumbnails will come through as they're processed in the servers. So you can see the clips arriving there, and I can mouse over them to see them. Cool. So now I can change to a thumbnail view. Oh, sorry, I have a list view and a thumbnail view, so you can see them there. Now, once they're uploaded to the server creates the thumbnail. It takes a few seconds to do that, and you can obviously see the thumbnails there. But you can roll the mouse over, and you can also get the clip metadata. And so we have a metadata window on the side here, and then you can get the metadata and clip information. This helps you manage your media in Blackmagic Cloud itself. Because, if you're doing the storage in Blackmagic Cloud, you're often managing all that storage before it gets to the editors. So let's open it. We've got the info palette open here. And then if I clip on one of the clips here, you'll see all the metadata appear. So it's pretty cool. And you can also mouse over the palette here as well. And that's been created on the servers. So it's pretty cool. But we want to share this folder with our editors, so we can do that. Let's do that. So I can open up the sharing menu. So I go in here and I can type in demo 1. I can add them. So I've got multiple people. And now my folder shared with multiple people. And you can add or remove people at any time. Now let's see what this looks like in DaVinci Resolve. Now we don't need a shared project in DaVinci. We can just load this folder in any project. The same way you'd import a local folder. In DaVinci, it's just a cloud folder. So let's do that. So I'll go into DaVinci. I've still got my replay thing going on here. So let's, I'll just bring the folder in, I guess. There it is there. Add folder under, add, and then there it is there. There's my folder. Now the media is not actually really in the project unless it's loaded into the timeline and used. It'll load the proxies first, and so you can scroll the media in the folder immediately in the source tape. So you can see all your media. And there it is there. That's already come through in DaVinci when I added it. So you can go into the source tape, scroll through the media. And then when I see a shot that I like, I can edit that into the timeline. And then it'll, as you edit in the timeline, it'll download the original camera media original file once you've done that. So it stays with so the cloud, so the media that you've used in your timeline will stay with the project, or if you select to download it, or if you move it outside of the cloud folder, it'll then stay with the project. So even if the cloud folder disappears because someone unshares it with you, you won't lose the shots that are in your edit. And you won't have any offline clips in your edit. So you can just, you can obviously drag shots out of the cloud folder into the normal bin if you want to keep them. Also, shots in the bin will be recreated if someone updates them. So if you don't want that to happen, you can drag a file out of there. So it's pretty cool. So it's really good for keeping the latest shots updated. If someone's doing like master titles, they can be recreating them and you'll have the latest versions. But if you don't want that, you can just drag it out of the folder before you use it. Now you can also add files into this folder and it'll upload them. And anyone who has access to this folder will also then be able to share those media as well. And those cloud folders will appear in the cameras, they appear everywhere. So you can shoot into the cloud folder, into the storage, and Blackmagic Cloud will then sync the files into the editors, even if they've just got a local project. And this is what makes the cloud folder so powerful. They're synced to DaVinci Resolve, but they're also supported in our cameras, in our cloud stores, in HyperDeck Shuttle Pro 4K, plus the Blackmagic camera app for the phone, for the iPhone and Android, will all be updated to support Blackmagic Cloud folders. So customers can buy the storage without needing a DaVinci Resolve library, and the media can be uploaded and managed in Blackmagic Cloud. Also, the permissions are set in Blackmagic Cloud as well, so you can share a folder. Also, you can share a folder with the organization, so you can use the organization features as well. Now, Blackmagic Cloud folders will be available as a public beta with DaVinci Resolve 20. We'll be releasing updates for cameras and cloud stores over the coming weeks, and I think it's already supported in the Blackmagic camera app. And we've been using it in-house, and it's really good. So next, I'd like to talk about network storage. We have a new software update we'll be releasing. It adds SMB3 multi-channel support. This lets users transfer more data using multiple 10G Ethernet ports. And it's great if your computer support it. It's great with the Blackmagic Media Dock because you can do camera offloads really fast. Plus, we'll be adding SMB signing, which is needed for Windows support. And that Blackmagic Cloud Store update 1.6 is available now, and it's a free update. And it works with all Blackmagic Cloud Store models. Okay, so we also have another Cloud Store update coming soon, and we'll be adding NFS support. Some people have asked for NFS support, so we've been working hard on implementing that. Now we're testing it now, so keep an eye out for that if you need NFS support in Blackmagic Cloud Stores. Okay, now let's talk about cameras. First, I want to talk about a software update. This is adding autofocus and pre-record. Autofocus lets the camera live track the focus of objects. So if something moves, it'll stay in focus, and that's more important on large format sensors because they've got a really nice shallow depth of field, but the objects can move out of focus really easily. So now the camera will just track the object and stay focused. So let me show you how that works. Now I've got a Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K here, which I'll bring out. And I'll plug in a monitor cable so we can cut to that and you can see the result. So we'll get some video up there. Now there's a focus mode. I'll have to try and swing it around here to get the camera. We'll see if you can get that. So I'll bring that in. So there's the focus controls there, if you can see those. And I can now object track, get a better hot. So you can see I'm now tracking the focus, and if you can see that there. Now that's basically tracking whatever's in that position. That's called continuous autofocus. So if I move around here a bit and I change the tracking, it'll stay focused. So you can see if I move, probably see that if you switch the HDMI out, and I move to the connectors, you can see the BNC connectors are now out of focus. But as I move back, it'll change the focus. And of course, if I move in and out, it'll stay focused on that section. And I don't know if you can pick this up, if you get too close for the lens and the lens won't focus, it goes red. See that? Gives you a red indicator that the lens is at the end of its travel, which is, I think, really nice. Then there's an object tracking. So you can select that. And what object tracking will do, I don't know if you can see the back of that there, as you move the shot around, it'll track the object and stay in focus. So as you move out, you move in, it'll keep the focus. So now you can reposition the framing and those connectors will stay in shot, in focus. So that's pretty cool. So that's awesome. And of course, I think it'll still show you when it gets too close. Yeah, so he's having a problem. But I think that's nice. You can see the move around and it stays in focus. Now, one of the other ones, I would need a couple of models from our marketing area. So there's also face recognition. So what I can do is if I bring the camera over here, and if you can get a shot of that, see how it's now recognized the faces? So I can now move in on the face and move around, it'll stay in focus, but I can also select another face and it'll rack the focus across the other person. And now I can focus and move around and it'll recognize everybody. So that'd be pretty cool. So that's awesome. So we've actually added a neural net into the camera, and it's an AI process that's doing all this stuff. So it's really exciting. Our plan will be to public beta the new autofocus feature, and then initially we'll support this Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. This camera has an L-mount lens, which we need for autofocus. We've been testing with a lot of lenses. We hope to release the autofocus on other cameras with large format sensors as well pretty soon. So we'll keep working on that. Now this update will be called Blackmagic Cameras 9.5, and it will actually post it today as a public beta on our website, so you can just download that and give it a try. Now I want to talk about pre-record. Now a lot of broadcasters need this because they need to be constantly recording without filling the media, and pre-record lets you basically record before your main recording, and you can set how much pre-cache you want. Now let me show you how that works. I'm going to do it on Blackmagic Pixus 6K up here. So I'll sort myself out here. Let me make some space. And I'll go grab the Pixus here. So if you can see that, if I can get a shot of that. Over here, get out of focus. So I've got a Pixus monitor on top here, and if you can get in on there. So to do a pre-record, you can just hold down the record button for 2 seconds and it'll start pre-recording. The pre-record duration is displayed above the record button. So let's hold our finger down there to start the pre-record. There you go, so you can see it. So now what it's doing is it's got a certain amount of cache that you've set in the menu that'll be stored and continually flushed through, so that when you start recording, it'll add that to the start of the file. So let me start recording. There I am recording. And now what it'll have done is it's putting it's currently recording into the file, but it's put the additional pre-record in front of that. Now after the recording stopped, it'll come out of pre-record. So you'll see there it is there. Now so holding your finger on the button is like a temporary pre-record, but you can also turn this on in the menu, and it'll always do pre-record for the recordings. So to do that, we go into the menus, which we can do up here. And we can turn on the pre-record. You can see we can get a shot from it here. And now when you go back, the pre-record is always on, and you can see there's a menu to turn it on. And you can also change the pre-record duration in that menu as well. So there it is, it's all on. And it'll always be on, and it'll always be used when you record. So if I start recording, I'll use the side button, see there? And when I finish recording, the pre-record's still there. It's still now keeping a cache. So everything the camera sees, it'll record. So I can set the camera up to watch something, and then when some kind of event happens, I won't miss the start of it. So that'll be really cool. Now, the new pre-record feature will be released on the Pixus 6K and the Ursa Broadcast G2 initially, but before we run it out on other camera models, because we want to make sure these new features are working well, and a bit of public beta testing is always good. Now, this update will be called Blackmagic Cameras 9.6, and it should be released in a few weeks. So if you have one of these cameras, then you can download it and give it a try. Okay, so one other update I've got before we move on to new cameras is we have an update for the Blackmagic Micro Studio Camera 4K G2, and it'll now support the Pixus monitor. This is great because the Micro Studio Camera has a USB port, and that supports the monitor. Plus, it also supports the heads-up display, so it looks like a regular camera with an LCD built in, and you can also tap on the heads-up display controls because it's USB, so you actually have a touchscreen, and you can even set the menus. So let me bring it out and show you. I'll just move the Pixus aside. So I can grab this. Here it is here. So there's a Micro Studio Camera with a monitor plugged in. So Micro Studio cameras are generally rigged. So you could have the Pixus monitor on a long USB cable, then you could use the camera remotely. Like if the camera was at the end of a boom, you could have a long USB cable or up in a lighting rig. So I can show you if you can get a shot of that there. You can see you've got the heads-up display, so you can adjust settings. It's got a little sunshade on it. You can go to the menus. So it's pretty cool. You can swipe to remove the controls. So it's all really cool. And you can even bring on digital slate, and you can enter metadata. So I think the digital slate's there, if you can get a shot of that. Through there. So it's pretty cool. You can access the menus. So if you want to change like record settings, so you could go into the record setting, which is actually already up there. There it is there, you can see it. You can even load 3D LUTs. If you go into 3D LUT, you can load a 3D LUT. So there it is there, it's really nice. So the software update for this will be called Blackmagic Cameras 9.7. It'll be a free update and available in a few weeks. We're actually just need a bit more time testing it. And then you can use your Pixus monitor with your Blackmagic Micro Cinema Camera 4K G2, which I think is going to be a wonderful combination. It's going to be really nice. Okay, so now I want to talk about Ursa Cine. So I'll bring out a Ursa Cine 17K. So you can have a look. A bit of a size difference with those two. So we recently introduced a body-only version of the Ursa Cine 12K. I'm actually not sure why we didn't do that originally. Yeah, we only had it in kit form with all the accessories, but we designed the camera to work with the industry accessories. So it was a bit strange that only ship it with accessories and we didn't have a body-only model. So that's why we introduced a body-only model that includes an EF lens mount and a CF Express media module. But pretty much that's it. That's all you get. It's just the body, and you can put all the accessories on that you already have. So now that the Ursa Cine 17K is shipping, we want to do the same thing for it. So we're introducing the Blackmagic Ursa Cine 17K 65 body. So I can bring one of those in. So you can see here it is here. So obviously that's the bit that really matters. It's the body-only version. There it is there. Now this body is the same as the rigged one here. They're both Ursa Cine 17K 65mm cameras, but the body-only model means you can rig it with the gear you already own. And this rig has, stuff from a lot of different companies. But there is some differences between the body-only packages for the 12K and 17K cameras. The 12K camera includes an EF lens mount, but on the 17K camera will include a PL lens mount, as you can see on the front there. Plus also we're going to include a 8 terabyte media module. So even though you can shoot an 8K on this camera at 65mm, I think anyone who buys it's probably going to want to see, try out 17K. So we felt like it'd probably be worth including the full 8 terabyte media module, which you can see here. So that'll come with it. And it'll handle that, really high resolution shooting if you want to do that really well. Otherwise, it's the same amazing camera that we've got here. It's got the built-in screens on the side and the assist station over here. So it's really nice. And of course, it records in Blackmagic RAW. So you don't need external recorders. There's high-speed 10G Ethernet network storage built in. Well, the 8 terabyte module is network storage, but you access it over the 10G Ethernet. It even has the built-in high-speed Wi-Fi. Plus, it syncs with Blackmagic Cloud for real-time, and it does real-time HD proxies. Even when recording in 17K, you still get the proxies. So DaVinci systems get the media while the camera's recording. So it means you can do post-production while you're shooting. And if the editors need anything, they can call you and let you know because you're still doing the shoot while they're editing. So it's really nice. You can even live stream straight from this camera. So producers and post-production teams can, watch the shoot. And if we send it into Blackmagic Cloud and you can bring it into multi-view, you might be able to have multiple cameras on set streaming into a multi-view, then that coming out into a decoder on a television in the production office. So I think it'll be really nice. So it's such a nice camera. Everyone's worked really hard on it. And so the price of the Blackmagic Ursa Cine 17K 65 body only model will be priced at $21,995. And it's available for order now because we're building them now. Okay, so now let's talk about Pixus, Blackmagic Pixus. Now it's been received really well and people are using it to do some amazing work. However, we thought it'd be really nice to kind of create a news camera for broadcast with it. We've always pushed digital film quality in broadcast, so why should feature films look like films? I think any kind of work could look like films. So we thought it'd be really nice to rig a Pixus for television production. So we've got 2 new products to help that. First, let me show you the camera. So here it is here. There we go there. Now, this is a Blackmagic Pixus 6K with an L-mount lens, and you can see it's rigged very differently. It's on top is a television production handle, and then the side is a side grip as well. So you can see it's a really nice, it's essentially an extended viewfinder built into a handle with a microphone. On the front, you can see it's got a stereo mic, and if you can get a close-up of that there. And there's also a LED indicator for when it's recording and tally. There's mounting points on it, on the sides there. And also there's a viewfinder on the back here that tilts up. It's really nice. And it's got the same glass lenses as the Cinema Camera Pro EVF, so it's really good quality. And it really has a really nice fine focus adjustment. Plus you can even set up a focus chart so you can focus it. So it's an OLED display that's really sharp. And again, the same display in the Cinema Camera Pro EVF. So it's a very premium accessory for Pixus. That's because, Pixus is not a cheap video camera. It's a full high-end format digital film camera. So in the store that you just bolt it on top of the camera and you plug the USB connections in. And we also include a custom USB cable with it, and that locks down onto the camera with locking screws. Now we've also got some controls on the top, which I'll see if I can get a shot of those. See there? So you can adjust it. There's a couple of function buttons and you can adjust the zoom and the record. And there's a mount on the top. So if you've got a zoom lens, you can actually zoom from the handle, which is nice if you're using the camera down low because you can get down low with it. So it's really good because you can do it with your thumb. So you can also record on the top with a record button. So we've also got a side handle. Now this is really a video style grip that lets you hold the camera. It's got it bolts onto the side. Actually, it bolts onto the side of the camera where the Pixus mount is. So It also plugs into the USB port, and there's a USB-C loop on there, top handle for that. It's got a hand strap, so you can put your hand through it. And it also includes a zoom control on the top, if you can get a shot of that there, which is quite nice. So you can zoom by holding it. It also has a record button on the back. Let me bring that around, see if you can see that. So you can get a shot of that. So you can hold it and then record with the record button. And so I think these work really well together. I think it's really cool. Now, with these accessories, I think Pixus makes a really great television production camera. And of course, it syncs to Blackmagic Cloud. So imagine using it for news. And as you shoot, the media's arriving back at the station in real time. You can even live stream from it, which we were doing before. Plus, with the new pre-record, I think it makes it perfect for broadcast. And it'll also get the autofocus stuff soon as well. So I think it's going to really help raise the quality of broadcast production and news, because this goes way beyond what a traditional broadcast camera can do. And I think it's time broadcasters had better quality, digital film quality. So the Blackmagic Pixus Pro handle will be priced at $895, and the Blackmagic Pixus Pro side handle will be priced at $119. I think they should be available in June or July. I can't wait to chat with broadcasters at the show about it. You know, we've got a lot of broadcasters switching to DaVinci Resolve, and they've been super happy with it, but they're not happy with their old camera gear. So I think this will be really like a dream camera for them. Okay, now we've got next we've got a new camera. We have a new Blackmagic Pixus camera today. So what we've done is we've taken the Blackmagic Pixus design and upgraded it, and we've added our 12K sensor from Ecosini and added it into the Pixus design. So we have all new electronics and processing to handle it, and it's amazing. Plus, we've upgraded the network connection to 10G Ethernet, and it also has a rear USB-C connection that's faster now, so it can record quicker to disks and things. So let me bring it out. Here it is here. You can see how small it is, but it's a full frame 12K sensor. Let me take the lens cap off. There it is there. So we can get a shot of that sensor. I'll get it there. So this is an amazing sensor. Now the top frame rates aren't as high as Ecosini, obviously, because that camera is insane. But it does do, that Ecosini does hundreds of frames a second. But this 12K sensor performs very well on this camera. Now you can shoot in 4K, 8K, and 12K in large format. I think people think you have to shoot in 12K, but you don't have to do that. The sensors have got multi-scaling built in, so it lets the photo sites get combined. So you can shoot at lower resolutions, but still get the large format sensor frame. So you don't need to window the sensor to get the higher frame rates. You can window the sensor if you want, but you can shoot 4K in the whole sensor open gate, all in Blackmagic RAW. So it's awesome. Now you can shoot large format open gate in 4K 3x2 up to 72 frames a second, or 4K 2.4:1 up to 112 frames a second. It's the same with 8K. You get large format open gate at 8K 3x2 up to 72 frames a second, and the 12K frame rate is lower because there's more data, but you can shoot large format open gate 12K 3x2 up to 40 frames a second, and it also does 12K 70x9 up to 50 frames a second, and 12K 2.4:1 up to 60 frames a second. So it's an amazing camera. I'll put the lens cap back on so I don't fill it full of dust. Now all the accessories from Pixus work. I can bring out one that's fully rigged here. There it is there. So you can see it's a wonderful digital cinema camera. The images look amazing. The front has the USB-C port for the viewfinders and monitors, plus the mini XLR socket on the front with the phantom power for the microphones. So you can check out the back. On the back, it's got the faster USB-C port for external SSDs. And it has the 12G SDI out for monitoring, and there's a BNC connector for timecoder reference in. And now it's 10G Ethernet, lets it connect to your network, so it acts like network storage. So editors can mount the CF Express cards and actually edit while you're working. And so just by essentially opening the camera up to the network, there's a 12-volt DC power connection plus a 3.5mm audio input for microphones and a 3.5mm audio output for headphones. It's also got the two CF Express cards, so you can do non-stop recording because you keep swapping the cards and when a card fills. So on the side, it's got the built-in 4-inch LCD. You can see that there. You can get a shot of that with the touch controls. Plus, it's got dedicated buttons for iris focus and record and more. There's even a HFR button, which is really helpful. Gives you high frame rate access instantly. And it's got some dedicated function buttons. Now, it records in Blackmagic RAW. It's got support for 3D light on the monitoring output, and you can adjust all the menus on the side screen. So you can get if you can get a shot of the side screen, I can show you the record menu. Let me bring that up. So, menu, record, and you can see if I bring that around there, I think you probably get a shot of it. There you can see all the different record options there, and also records a HD proxy. And then, of course, you can share your media with Blackmagic Cloud, and the proxies will upload first. It also live streams, even though when you're doing 12K, it'll do that. And so it has all the DaVinci Resolve and Blackmagic Cloud workflows. So I think it's really nice. So the Blackmagic Pixus 12K will be available in L mount, EF, and PL mount models. All three of these models will be priced at $4,995. I think it's such a nice camera. It's so portable. You can take it anywhere. It's really nice. And it works great with Ursa Cine 12K or 17K on multi-camera shoots. Because it's got the latest Generation 5 color science. I mean, this is the camera I want to take on holiday. It's just beautiful. I can't wait to get one myself. So it'll be available in July. As usual, we'll be doing a bunch of testing. There's so many features on these cameras nowadays that it takes a bit longer to test than it used to. Now, one more thing before we finish up. We have a new Cintel scanner today. It's based on the current model, but it's designed for 8mm small format film. It has different optics path. So it's higher resolution in 8mm film, and it's also higher resolution in 16mm film than the standard model, which is really good if you're doing a lot of 8 and 16mm film. It also features a new 16mm gate design. What we've done is we're using rollers instead of a skid plate. So there's basically no wear, and the film's mechanically more stable. So because it's rolling across rollers, not scraping across a skid plate. Now the new scanner is called the Cintel Scanner 8/16. It'll be priced at the same price as the current standard model. So it'll retail for $32,045. So that's all for this update. And we've got quite a lot of products and updates we've been working on. It's really nice to be able to explain everything and sort of some of our thoughts about sort of why we designed them or how we designed them. Also, I want to thank everyone at Blackmagic Design. Everyone has worked so hard on all these products. So it's pretty cool being able to work with such a smart team. So thanks for watching. Please travel safely if you're heading to the show. And so take care and bye for now. See ya.